Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and it's night number 2 of this week. As Jim Quirk is back, we're going to talk about a lot of the history of UFOs, because today is a big day in UFO history, so we're going to get into that a little bit tonight. Best of all, we have each and every one of you here tonight, including Plant Watering Citizen with their first gold medal, Eternity Eternal with a silver, Fast Hemi with a bronze medal tonight. Kitty Caddywhack, how are you? Race Fan, good to see you. Attorney at Large, Michael Morris, nice to have you here. JSCO and T-Bone, my man, how you guys doing? Hope you're having a great night. Robert Lamoth, thank you very much for joining us. Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show, because Jim said he's not doing this show unless he's lubed up and feeling nice and smooth. So, Mel, you're doing a great job, because this is going to be a great show tonight. Thank you. Nikki in Seattle, how are you? Glenn John McEnroe is here. Glenn John McEnroe will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Bar Madison, good to see you. Necessary Dialogue and the Jaquetta, how are you tonight? Frankie B, nice to see you. And David Norenberg, thank you for joining us. Ethanol, good to have you here. Hi there, Hippie Deidre. Hope your Birkenstocks are nice and warm tonight. Road Flare, good to see you. Flat 6, thanks for coming on in. Hi there, Eversore, welcome back. And to the lovely and talented Kira, who is here, one of my greatest supporters. Thank you, Kira, for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. Greatly appreciate your love and support, my beautiful friend. Let's talk soon. It's been too long. Sensational Shelley, how are you tonight? Good to have you here as we continue on with our roll call. And scrolling on down, we have number 28 in your program, starting at left wing from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. Bob Thor, nice to see you. Susan Ahern, how are you, my beautiful friend? Hope Provincetown is nice for you. I got to get back there. It's so beautiful there. Scrolling on down, let us go to Commonwealth Andrew is here. Commonwealth Andrew will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Here we go. Keep it on going. I'm Hardcore over on X. Nice to see you. Hi, Pam Harris. Mama Catherine. Mwah, I love you, my dear. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful evening, and I hope you enjoy tonight's show. AJ, thanks for coming on in. Alien Critter, good to see you. Attorney to the EBEs. Undead Jed. Tim Mothman and his goatee. Nice to see you all. Millennium, my man, how you doing? Good to see you. Algaray over on Twitch. 4,000 push-ups in anticipation of alien contact. Love it, my friend. Good job tonight. Your arms are jacked. Broken Shadow Feather, you're early tonight. Good to have you here. As we continue on with our roll call, Signs of Life, nice to see you. And who's next on our list here? Noble Patrick, thank you for joining us. Kevin Kennedy, nice to have you here. And let's see here. Scrolling on down. What in tarnation? Where have you been hiding? Good to have you back. Night Watch, thank you for joining us. The Ferret, good to see you. And who's next on our list? Kitty Caddywhack, thank you for that amazing super chat. Greatly appreciate your love and support of SOR, Kitty. So thank you very, very much. And let's see here. Where are we here? Deborah is here. Yeah, the Deborah has arrived. Let's start the radio side. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Glad to have you with us. As Jim Quirk is here, we're going to go through a little bit of UFO history as there's a big anniversary in the UFO world we want to talk about. And, of course, we are in roll call on our YouTube side. We are just about 30 seconds away from launching the show as we say hello next to... Who's next? Richard Minnick. Nice to see you. Rock and Rory, thanks for coming on in. Fast Hemi, thank you for joining us. And who's next here? Richard, thank you for that great super chat. The super chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Throw those horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We have an amazing show for you tonight. Jim Quirk is here. We're going to talk about a little UFO history and, of course, ET contact. What's it like to have alien encounters? Oh, it's going to be good. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will kick things off. Then Robin Haynes will be here for the Cryptid Q&A. I know you're going to enjoy that. So let's get right to it. Tonight's guest is the Meadow Project. Oh, no, that's definitely not him. I messed that up a little bit. Hold on. I got the wrong notes out. I do. How does this happen sometimes? You know what? That's the beauty of live radio. It's just sometimes you got things all planned out and you forget one little piece here. All right. Jim is the creator and host of Extraterrestrial Reality, a podcast which can be found on QUIRK Zone on YouTube and on UFO Extraterrestrial Reality on Spotify. Jim's interest in UFOs and aliens was spurred by an encounter he had with what he believes was an extraterrestrial being that appeared in his bedroom when he was almost 9 years old, way back in 1977 in Pennsylvania, and a close-up sighting of a UFO in 1994 while night fishing with a friend near Hazleton, PA. Jim is also a former newspaper reporter who covered local governments for newspapers in Iowa, Hawaii, and Pennsylvania over a period of 14 years from 96 to 2010, and he's much like me now, where it's not about the news anymore, it's about what's not in the news that we call UFOs. I mean, man, this is why I love having journalists like Jim Quirk on. Jim, it's good to have you here, my friend. How are you?
Thanks for the introduction, too.
There we go.
Thanks for having me on, Dave.
Rough start tonight. You doing well?
I'm doing well. How are you doing? You sound like you're doing well.
Man. I'm glad that you're back. You know, I love speaking journalist to journalist about this conversation because there's so few of us who are actually doing this. What is the love and the passion that you have for this subject?
Well, I think it started, when I was a kid. I think ever since then, the idea that when something is, in your mind that this is a real phenomenon and nobody believes you, it's like, well, hold on a second here. I feel like, a lot of my life has been spent trying to, tell people, hey, this is real. There's something really here. I encountered one of these things. And I think that, I became a journalist after that. And I would like to tell that story. I think to me, this is the biggest story of all time. The fact that we're not alone, that there's another presence here. I think that's the important part of, when you're a journalist, you want to try to get that proof out to people. And that's where
I absolutely agree with you. And the fact that this is a fun topic to cover, from the history of it all to what's going on in the government today, to current news and reviews about this, to the skeptics versus the experiencers versus the scientists. I mean, it really is a never-ending story, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just never stopped. I mean, there's always been something to talk about when it comes to this phenomenon, and now ever since 2017, it's even more so in the news than it was prior to that. Before that, it seemed like it was laughed at a lot more than it is these days. Of course, there are still people that do not take this as seriously as I think they should, but at the same time, it is better than it used to be. And I think it started with that 2017 New York Times article. That's how I see it now.
I would agree with you with that. I mean, that was such a profound move for what we call ufology. And to me, it was the shift between ufology and uapology. Because that's really when the whole UAP thing started to come down. And never been a fan of that, but I'm not going into that rant tonight. I get in trouble from too many of my listeners saying, you're whining about it. So I'm just not going to go there. But, I mean, for you, the change that you have seen in this field over the last number of years, has it been healthy in trying to get this story out, or are we just still at the beginning stages where we're learning to walk?
I think we're still at the beginning stages where we're learning to walk. That's what I think. I think we're getting to a different point. We're slowly moving to a point. I mean, the fact that there are attempts right now with people in government to pass legislation that will provide for UAP transparency and get the people in the government that have been hiding these things to finally come clean. So you have that, and I think that's most certainly a good step. But it seems like it's at the same time I still feel like we're stuck in mud, like we're because we're not really getting anywhere. It's just little by it's a slow process. I think what we might be experiencing is a slow type of a disclosure. It might be a deliberate thing. And so that I think we're going to get to it. It's going to be like this. It's going to stay like this for a little bit longer. And then maybe at some point in the future, we'll be doing better than we are right now, I think.
What has been the biggest change in this subject that you've seen in a long time?
Well, just the fact that it's taken more seriously now by people, especially in government. I mean, that was not the case before. Before, this was something that would be laughed at by people in Congress. I mean, it was a laughing matter. Now it seems to be no laughing matter. It seems like people are taking it seriously. That's the biggest change over the past 8 years, I would say.
I would say the biggest change is that the subject matter is blowing up every day. People are paying more attention. People are starting to really pay attention to the names that are really pushing this, whether it's Lou Elizondo, whether it's Sean Kirkpatrick or Chris Mellon or David Grush or Tim Gallaudet or whoever it may be. The big question that I get a lot of from my listeners and other people who I talk to about it is, how do we know what's real? Because there seems to be a number of shell games going on regarding this subject. And we all want the same thing, which is we want the President of the United States to come out and say, ladies and gentlemen, we are not alone in this universe. That's what we want. But there's so many shell games around that. How do you keep track of everything?
You can't. There's just actually we're at a point right now. It's too much. It's really difficult to keep up with everything. I mean, there's so many different new whistleblowers that keep popping up. There's just so many different things, so many different maneuvers that are going on within Congress. Sometimes you don't hear about them until it's too late. I mean, there's just so I don't think you can keep up. But there's just so much news now compared to what it used to be like before. It used to seem like it was Weekly World News and the Inquirer, and that was what would talk. That they're the only places where you find stories about UFOs. Now it's a lot of different mainstream online outlets you see on a regular basis. I mean, it's every week. I mean, there's multiple stories. It's hard to keep up with them. I mean, the biggest story over the past week, I would say, would be the new leaked video that was presented by George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell that showed this giant round kind of looked like a saucer. Was filmed by a United States Air Force platform back in 2020 over the Afghan-Pakistan border, and it was very, very compelling video. In fact, I think I've commented on it when I saw it that I think it was probably the best leaked video to come from the Pentagon since 2017, better than the initial 3 that we saw or anything else in between. To me, it's the most compelling because this thing, I mean, it was definitely moving around in ways that human-made aircraft cannot move around, and it was completely round in shape. Now, I've heard some people say they think it might be a black hole. I don't know if you've seen this video yet, but it was very, very interesting and compelling, I must say.
I thought it was very interesting too, especially the way it moved. You know, now some people are saying it's one of those searchlights that is looking for objects in the sky that maybe has been discolored. You know, I mean, there's always the excuse from the armchair skeptics who are looking into it. But I tell you one thing that we do know, that one is not a ULP, an unidentified lighting phenomena, or a UIP, an unidentified irrigation phenomena.
No. No, it's not. I mean, the fact that the military itself doesn't know what it is. They have no answer for it, and they've had this for 5 years, and they still have no answer for it. So that's telling right there. The fact that the United States military, which has almost $1 trillion budget, has no explanation for that object that they filmed.
When you look at these videos that are coming out, the whistleblowers that are coming out, is this going to lead us any further? Or is it just putting us more down a rabbit hole?
I think it's leading us further. I think what we're seeing here right now, and I've been talking about this on my show a lot recently, is that this is a possibility that all of this stuff right now is theater, some of it. I mean, maybe there are some. I mean, it's funny to me that Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick recently comes out and makes this ridiculous assertions in the Wall Street Journal article where he's trying to say that, for instance, what really shut down the missiles, the nuclear missiles at Malmstrom back in 1967 was just these electromagnetic devices that they were testing there, and they didn't tell anybody that was working there. I mean, that's absurd. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. After over 50 years goes by, almost 60 years goes by, and now, we're going to tell you the truth. Now we were lying all those years, and now this is the truth. To me, right, that's just nonsense. But at the same time, maybe this is all done on purpose. I mean, just as a way to keep this story of UFOs and the government lying in the news. Maybe that's what's going on, because I mean, I don't know if either Kirkpatrick thinks everybody's stupid, or maybe he's just pretending to be stupid himself, just as a part of this theater that we're seeing. Like all these people, okay, here's Lou Elizondo comes out with a picture, or Jeremy Corbell, of a UFO, and says, and then you have the debunkers come out, say that no, that can't be that. It's only a reflection caused by the sun or something like that. Maybe all of this is theater just to keep it in the news on a regular basis. I don't know. It just seems strange to me that Kirkpatrick, who's been he's not been the Arrow director for a year and a half since he's been gone, but yet he decides for some reason to tell the Wall Street Journal all this nonsense. And that all the UFOs that people have been seeing for decades was really, the military knew what they were. They were just testing top secret aircraft, and they just didn't tell anybody. All of this is nonsense. It's especially for people who have had experiences themselves. Like, do you mean the alien creatures that people encountered were you operating those too? Were they standing outside of people's houses, were getting abducted with remote control robots? I mean, it's absurd when you start considering all the other factors that this phenomenon involves.
Yeah, it is a little crazy, my friend, when you look at all the names, the shenanigans that are being played. And in the end, it's the public that's losing, because the public just wants the truth on what's going on. But when you can't even define what truth is in this subject, I mean, that's where you get all of the skeptics going crazy. The believers are even getting mad now. The experiencers are getting mad. And I just find it very, very hollow that this subject, going back a couple years, had such great momentum. And now people are like, who do I believe? Who do I believe? Congress keeps interviewing the same people. We have, more of these whistleblowers coming out. But a whistleblower, are they really whistleblowers? Or are they people with just high security experiences? Because they're not, a whistleblower that brings evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's the other thing. There's not one of these people, really, of all the whistleblowers, not even David Grush. I'm not saying I don't believe David Grush. I think David Grush, he testified under oath. I think that Lou Elizondo is telling the truth. He testified under oath about these things, among some other people. I don't think they're lying, but the fact of the matter is none of them, nobody to this point, like you said, has presented any evidence to show that, hey, yeah, we're not alone. I think there's actually more evidence right now. There actually is. In fact, I know this for a fact. There's more evidence within the public domain that has been independently verified than there is from anything that has come from any whistleblower or anybody in Washington at this point. There's compelling evidence, compelling testimony, but no absolute proof to show anybody. Like here's an alien for you that we captured. This was from a United States Air Force platform. Not only did we capture the craft, but you could see the alien sitting inside of it. There's nothing like that. And I'm sure that they have stuff like this. In fact, Elizondo has made statements to that effect in the past.
And I agree with you. I think the public has been the biggest leader in this of all, because it's citizen journalism, citizen science that has been actually getting a lot more publicity regarding this. And now you have people who are starting to really focus on the fact that maybe we're not going to get anything with the government. Maybe they're sitting on a multi-trillion-dollar new industry with all of this UFO technology. And maybe it's up to us to be able to bring disclosure. And that's what the government doesn't want, because that leads to catastrophic disclosure.
Well, okay. Now I like the last time I was on your show, I talked a lot about the Las Vegas alien incident from 2023, and I just mentioned it briefly here about what's happened since the last time I've been on your show. And the basically is nothing. I have received no response from the government, even though I sent them all the information regarding that case, and including various videos and things that they could look at that shows that incident really actually occurred. And I just most recently I contacted the UAP caucus and I provided them with all this information. And that case, when you examine all the evidence, the totality of the evidence involved with that case shows that there's no question that there's an NHI presence here. There's just no doubt about it. And that evidence showed that there was just too many factors with that case that shows that there's nothing anybody could do to debunk it either. Nobody's debunked it. Nobody's even tried. Mick West, the debunker, was offered $5,000 to provide an analysis that would refute it, but he declined. He won't do it. Nobody will do it. Nobody can, because they know what it shows. So everyone's instead pretending it means nothing, that it doesn't exist, including the government. No one in the government is talking about it, even though they know about it. They have been alerted about it. In fact, they've been alerted about it again just recently, about a month and a half ago. And nothing. And as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of people who have been following my podcast, as well as the experts that authenticated the video, and like Scott Roeder, the crime scene reconstruction expert, this proves it. This case actually proves that there's something here. There's just no doubt about it. There's no other explanation other than NHI. But I digress. I just want to point that out, because no one that evidence there is better than anything that any whistleblower has put forward. Nobody has put anything out. It's the best evidence we ever had. That's all I could say. From where I'm sitting, all the research I've done, I was a reporter, like you stated, like I told you, for 14 years. I know that this story was. I know that the reporting on this is solid, and I know that my sources are solid, and I know that there's nothing anybody could do about it. Nobody could debunk it. So we actually have the evidence right now within the public domain, if anyone's interested.
As you kind of try and move this story forward through your media outlet, what is the response from your audience regarding this subject? Are they getting frustrated as well?
Yes, there's a lot of people frustrated. In fact, I would say over 90% of the people who comment on my podcast, whether it's on Spotify or on YouTube, they are frustrated. They're actually frustrated the same way I'm frustrated when it comes with regard to the with the evidence that I've been talking about, the fact that a lot of other people aren't talking about it, and it's just strange because they see it, they're seeing what I'm seeing, and I know this isn't, I'm not trying to pull any fast ones there. I just presenting the evidence and laying it out for people, and a lot of people are seeing it the same way I am, and yet this time just keeps passing. But here's the thing, it's out there and it's going to stay out there. And over time, more and more people will find out about it. More and more people will take the time to absorb that evidence and realize what it signifies. That's what I think. And I think a lot of people are frustrated about how the government has handled this. There's no question about that. People are frustrated about how other people in the UFO community respond to this kind of evidence. And a lot of people just, I think what happened here with that case is that it just sounds so fantastic on its face that they just think it can't be true. And they just don't even want to bother looking at it. But if they looked at it, they would see that, no, this really did happen. And this does show that there's aliens or NHI, whatever you want to call them. There's something here that's not human. And this proves it. That's what they would see.
What is the holdback? In your opinion, from what you've heard from your audience, your sources, what do you think the big holdback is? We got about 3.5 minutes.
I think the big holdback is the fact that it proves it. And I think that's the holdback. I think this, if this were to go mainstream, it actually started to go mainstream. There was a Fox News Digital had ran a few articles on this last summer. And when we first made this discovery that we were able to prove that it really did happen, and that the video wasn't fake, they ran some articles, but then they stopped. And I don't know if they got the word from someone or what happened, but they were running some pretty decent articles. A gentleman by the name of Chris Eberhardt wrote those articles, but they didn't talk about it on their main channel. They just ran about 3 or 4 separate articles online, and they were very well done, I thought. But they didn't seem to have any interest beyond that, and neither did any other mainstream channels. News Nation had a few discussions about it, but none of them ever really got into the depth that it requires for people to understand the legitimacy of that case. And I think that's the problem, because it's the end. I mean, it's over. I mean, once people see that, they're going to know that aliens are real. Now, then we can start talking about something else. Everyone should just know this. The government's lying to you. They've been lying about this for a long time. We have the evidence in the public now, and that's just the way it is. And you could like it or not, but there's nothing anybody could do about it now. It's too late. It's already out there in the public domain, and you'll never be able to disprove it. That's what I got to say about that.
And that's the problem, is the government doesn't have to tell the truth on this.
That's what they're doing. Instead, what they're doing, they're just pretending it doesn't exist by not, commenting on it, by not responding to any of the messages that I sent out, any of the emails that I wrote to them, by not saying anything, by pretending it doesn't exist. That's the only thing that they feel like they can do, because if they respond to it, that's just going to put a focus on it. Then more people will know about it, and that's the problem for them. That's why nobody wants to talk about it. In fact, I think there's people in the UFO community who don't want to talk about it, because they know what the state, they understand the significance of it, and they understand this is going to be disclosure once people start realizing what this evidence constitutes, what it means, what it signifies. That's what they're going to think. And I think people are afraid of that. They're afraid of what the reaction will be worldwide. But it seems like, it is out there. Some people who find my podcast eventually, to come upon it, find it somehow the algorithm suggests it to them, and then they watch a couple of the videos and they're like stunned. They can't believe, wow, I can't believe that nobody else knows about this. Nobody else is talking about this. That's how a lot of them act when they find it.
We got 1 minute to go before we have to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Jim Quirk is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to get into a lot of these topics. In your opinion, where does the experiencer sit? I need a 45-second answer.
Where does the experiencer sit? Well, as an experiencer myself, I don't know. I just think that I think we're holding all the cards, because the people who experience this, we're the ones who really know for a fact that there's no doubt about it, that there's something here, and that all of this nonsense of the government pretending like it doesn't know anything. We know for a fact it's a lie. We've known this for a long time. That's where the experiencer sits. I think. I think a lot of people who experience this, they don't like the fact that they've been laughed at over the decades about this. I could tell you that. I don't like that either. But, at the same time, I didn't care. Like I would always, the way I handle it is, hey, I think you're crazy if you don't believe in it. That's how I feel about it. In fact, I actually wrote an opinion piece in 2002 for the Hawkeye newspaper in Burlington, Iowa, about that very
Hold
subject.
that thought, Jimmy. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Lots more to talk about UFOs. Jim Quirk, our guest tonight. He's a great guest. It's going to be fast. It's going to be hard. And that's what we do on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear, buddy.
Okay.
Remember, our YouTube audience and podcast audience can hear us.
Okay, I won't say any curse words then.
No
not that I would,
curse words.
Not that I would anyway, but. Yeah, I guess I was talking. People are saying I was talking too fast. Yeah, I have that problem sometimes.
See a lot of new faces in our chat room tonight. Thank you for joining us. If you're unfamiliar with our show, just want to remind you or tell you guys that we are a live radio show, live YouTube channel, and a recorded podcast, which is recording right now. And that's why we take breaks at the bottom and the top of the hour. Do us a favor, since we're here 7 days a week for you. Hit subscribe, ring that bell. We would greatly appreciate your love and support. And for my audience, make sure you go over to the QUIRK Zone on Jim's channel and hit subscribe there because, you know, you got to support good people, and Jim's one of the good ones out there. So do that for me if you don't mind. I'd appreciate that.
So how's the weather where you are right now, Dave? It's been pretty hot where I'm at.
Well, we don't have the heat wave yet. We've had a couple of days in the mid to high 80s. Today was kind of like in the 70s with a nice breeze. And then it rained a little bit this afternoon, which was nice. Let's see. I don't even know what the forecast is. Let's check out the forecast. The weather just changes here so fast, though. We're supposed to get rain overnight, or rain and thunderstorms tomorrow and Thursday. Friday, sun and clouds. What's the long-term forecast here? Yeah, this is all the big... we're getting into the thunderstorm season, which kind of sucks. Not going to be very warm, but warm enough for me. Lots of moisture in the air right now.
Yeah, it's been pretty hot where I'm at.
I'm glad it's not hot. The forests are still green here, which is good. Because brown forests usually mean to fires.
Yeah.
Corey, how you doing? Skip to Malou, good morning to you. All right, we got about 2.5 minutes, bud.
Okay. Yeah, when I lived in Hawaii, I lived on the Hilo side, on the east side of Hawaii, and it would rain sometimes. It was like a tropical rainforest kind of situation there, and it would just all of a sudden it would rain and storm for like 15 minutes, and then the sun would be right back out again, and like you didn't even notice that it just rained. It was so quick. It was a great place to be. It was always 81 degrees, no matter what time of the year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
You didn't need air conditioning?
No.
You didn't need air conditioning or heaters.
Yeah, I have a portable air conditioner for those like 3 weeks out of the year that I need it. You know?
Yeah.
But usually we get a nice breeze coming through. And that's usually nice. Obviously. Yep. Boy, did I hit an obvious patch there. Let's see here. We got about just over a minute here.
Glenn said he lived in Hawaii in 1965.
I wasn't even born.
Neither was I.
Glenn was like 1. Hypersonic, how you doing? Yeah. Dave lives in British Columbia, about halfway up the province. Yeah. It'll be sun. I'll see daylight here until about, well, the sun's setting now, but I'll see daylight in the sky up until about 11 o'clock tonight. A big thank you to Kira, Kitty Caddywhack, Richard, T-Bone, and Deborah Rooney for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love. Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so check it out on our website. Here we go. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. The media, the experience, the UFOs, that's what we're talking about. The podcaster Jim Quirk tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Glad to have you with us. And we want to remind you that if you're looking for our free archives, they're all over the place. They're on YouTube and every major podcast network. The only thing I want in return, hit subscribe, hit follow. I think it's a fair trade. You get a free show, I get your subscription for free. Both are free. It's an even trade. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, Jim Quirk is here hanging on out with us. We're having a good time talking UFOs. And Jim, being a former member of the media that you are, just like I am, I'm curious to see your reaction on the media coverage and or that lack thereof, because there is this conspiracy going around that many people believe that there is a CIA agent in every newsroom, much like the old movie Good Morning Vietnam, that after the story comes down on the ticker tape, they are able to say what story goes out and what's not. Now, I never worked in that situation when I was mainstream. Did you?
No. In fact, I worked at the papers I worked at were smaller kind of newspapers. I mean, they weren't, big cities like Philadelphia or New York or anything like that. I mean, these were small cities like Burlington, Iowa, Hazleton, Pennsylvania, Kailua Kona, Hawaii. That's the kind of newspapers I was working at. And so it wasn't like these bigger ones. So when I did, every now and then I would write about UFOs, and they were okay with that, as long as had a local angle to it. And the one time actually in Iowa, I did write a opinion piece, a column on for Sunday. I talked about my experiences, and I was arguing, and this was in 2002, long before I started the podcast. And I argued in that I think people who don't believe in this phenomenon at this point, they're the crazy ones, not the people who are telling you that they saw UFOs or had an alien encounter. All of these people can't be lying, and that was my argument basically. And I think in some of these bigger newspapers, I don't know what's going on there. A lot of them are connected. There is connections. They're all part of the establishment, like the Washington Post, the New York Times. They're all part of the establishment. They all basically working for the same teams, I think. And I think that the message is they get their marching orders from the Pentagon. If the Pentagon tells them that all the people saw in Roswell were anthropomorphic dummies that weren't dropped from the sky until the 1950s, and the object that crashed there was only a balloon, then they'll run with that and they won't investigate it. You would think like a newspaper, for instance, like the Washington Post would have thought that was nonsense on its face back in 1997 and sent out their Woodward and Bernstein or Bernstein and Woodward lookalikes to at least look into something like this, because they had to know that was a lie if they would have done any sort of serious investigation into the Roswell incident, but they never did, because obviously they're all part of the same team. I don't see how all of these newspapers big newspapers don't see the big story here that's been there for all these decades. Obviously, they're being told something. Their editors, the owners, the publishers are being told by somebody, don't run with those kind of stories. There's nothing to it. It's all nonsense. Don't worry about it. Or maybe they know that there is something to it, and they know that they're not supposed to write about it. I don't know. That's the only thing I could think of with that.
It is frustrating, to say the least, because, it just seems like every time we get a little bit of momentum in this field for people covering it, you get the person who goes, are there really aliens on this planet? Are there really green men? Where are they hiding? And they ask the simpleton questions that really seem to put the whole subject back into the tinfoil zone, if you know what I mean.
Right. They always say space aliens. They'll call them space aliens. We like Stephen Greenstreet from the New York Post. He writes about this stuff all the time, debunking it, making fun of people who believe in it, basically trying to keep the stigma going. That's what they seem like they're trying to do, some of them. And it's been like this for a long time. It's always been made fun of by the major newspapers for the most part. And it's just sad, especially when you have people who experience these things and then they're afraid to talk about it, or it's too late. They already did talk about it to their local newspaper. And then the next thing you know, there are some mainstream news outlets making a fool out of them because they said they encountered aliens, like the guys in Pascagoula in 73. That became a big story. And it was picked up by newspapers across the world, and a lot of people ridiculed them over that. And they suffered throughout their lives, those two guys at times. And a lot of people who when their story becomes international, Travis Wall and all these people, they're called liars. They're called, they must have been on drugs or whatever. They're con artists. I mean, that's the kind of stuff they have to deal with then, because the mainstream news just won't do its job and investigate this and get the truth out. I mean, they have to know, some of these people in these, they can't all be stupid. I'll say that. Some of them have to realize there's a lot more to this story than what's being told by the government.
Do you think it's just ego on the behalf of the news directors that are refusing to cover this?
Yeah, I think I think every case is different. I think for like the biggest newspapers, the ones that are being read all over the world, like the Washington Post, New York Times, I think that they're part of the establishment. But then smaller tier newspapers, a lot of the editors, they bought into the stigma. They think it's all crazy because that's what they were taught their whole lives, and they never had encounters themselves. That's how I think it is. I think for a lot of people in the newspaper business, they think it's crazy and silly. In fact, I encountered that kind of stuff myself when I worked at newspapers, because I would talk about my experiences in the newsroom with other reporters, and they'd be like, "Oh, having a good old time, a good chuckle." But I'm like, no, I'm telling you this. I'm being very serious about this. You could laugh, but this really happened to me. And then some people would take what I'm saying seriously, at least seemingly. And then some people would, joke about it all. I never heard the end of it, but I didn't care because I knew it was real, and I know that I was right about what I'm telling them. So that's how it is.
As we move the story forward, what can the mainstream do? Because they don't have a reporter on the beat outside of News Nation and Ross Coulthard covering this story. They're just sending usually it's junior reporters on stories like this, and then they just rehash everything that we already know, that we've been told, because it's new to them.
Yes.
It's not new to the story, it's new to them. So what would be your advice?
My advice would be, like I was stating earlier, it was interesting that Fox News Digital was running a few articles, and they seemed to be taking it seriously, but then they stopped at a certain point, and they became disinterested for whatever reason. And I don't know what that reason is. Did they get a call from higher up saying, "Hey, you better drop that story," or did they say, "Oh, we just don't believe this," or "It doesn't constitute proof to us"? I don't know. I don't know what the mentality was behind the scenes, but it did stop. But had they continued with it, then I think everyone at this point in the whole world would know. If any news outlet were to take this seriously, any mainstream news outlet would take this subject seriously and do some serious research into different UFO events that have occurred throughout the years, no matter what it is. I mean, there's just so many of them, right? And the fact about what the government's been telling us all these decades, I mean, they would know. They would find something more than just independent researchers could come up with. I think that they have the resources and the money to throw at something like this, and they could end this within a few months if they did a serious investigation, or 6 months, something like that. A serious investigation by a serious newspaper, throwing serious money at it, putting some of your best reporters on this subject. They'll get somewhere, I think, but they don't want to do that.
Speaking of UFO history, big day today, 78 years ago. Kenneth Arnold flying his airplane, heading to eastern Washington, decides to go look for a missing military aircraft because there's a $5,000 reward right around Mount Rainier where it had crashed, and he sees 9 flying objects. And 78 years ago today, we had the term coined flying saucer. A little bit of history there. What do you think of this story?
I think it's the story that has us talking, has the started to everything that that brought us to where we are right now. I mean, this is the one that really started it. I mean, that was the beginning of the UFO phenomenon to me, as far as anyone should be concerned, because I mean, before that, there were things that happened, like the 1896, 1897 airship mystery. There were, but then that died down. There was sightings here and there, but nobody really talked about them. In 1940, during the World War II, there were Foo Fighters that, nobody really knew about that until years later, though. And then in 1946, there was the Swedish ghost rockets. There was objects seen over Sweden. And then in 1947, in June of that month, thousands of reports all of a sudden, starting with the Kenneth Arnold sighting, and then July, August, there were thousands of reports all of a sudden. People were seeing flying saucers all over the place, and it hasn't stopped. And it seems like it's morphed over time. Actually, it's changed. I mean, first it was just the sightings, and then it turned into landings and seeing humanoids, like the French UFO wave of 1954, and here we are now. Then that led into the abductions, and then people talking about hybrids and things like that, and different kinds of aliens that people have been encountered over the years. And now we're talking about it in Congress finally.
And
that started everything.
It's kind of weird to think that we're also about 10, 11 days until the 78th anniversary of Roswell. I mean, these two big incidents couldn't have happened any more close together unless they happened one on top of each other.
Yeah, and of course, I am a firm believer that the Roswell incident definitely involved some sort of an NHI craft. There's no question about that in my mind. I've done enough research on that subject. I know a lot of us in the UFO field, and I'm sure you have too. There were books written by Donald Schmidt and Thomas Carey and Kevin Randall. They did a lot of research over many, many years. There's absolutely no question. There were just so many different witnesses, particularly military witnesses. People who gave deathbed confessions, people who signed affidavits, before they died, saying, yes, I encountered alien creatures. I saw the alien bodies, or they saw the craft, or they handled both. I mean, there was just too many, and the Air Force never addressed this in any of their reports. Arrow never addressed it when they came out with their historical review, or last year, or I think it was last year. There were too many witnesses. There's just no way that did not happen based on the number of witnesses and everything that they had to say. All of those witnesses, you put all of those little nuggets of information together, it lays out a picture. It tells you, it informs you that there's obviously something that happened. And all these little pieces of information are all part of a puzzle, and they tell a story.
Getting back to Kenneth Arnold, one of the other things that we need to assess on this too is it was actually shortly after that the first ever recorded sighting of Men in Black.
Very shortly after that, yes, the Maury Island incident. I'm not sure about that. They say that's the first MIB story. I'm not sure really what that was. I don't know about that. But one other thing I did want to mention about Kenneth Arnold was that there were other witnesses to this craft in addition to him. There was some other guy from Washington State that saw them right before Kenneth Arnold did. He had reported that later on, and there was some other witnesses as well. And then there were Men in Blacks, the Men in Black that had approached Arnold, and that was the first time that came up. Yes, but I think that could have been some government agents, perhaps. Government at the time didn't know what was going on, and maybe they were just trying to, tell him to lay off for a little bit. Maybe that's what it was. It's really unclear what that story to me is a little bit hazy.
It's all kind of hazy when you come to it because, back then in 47, people believed the government. They believed what the government was telling them, much like they believe, in an honest day's work, and they believed their neighbor, and they were much more trusting back then. And when all of this started with, whether it was with Kenneth Arnold or leading right into Roswell a number of days later, do you think that trust was broken? Is that really where the broken trust began? Because of the threats?
Yeah, I think it is. I think the trust was broken with Roswell. I mean, there were threats made there, right? Starting right when that incident happened. I mean, you hear this. We didn't know about it until decades later, but that's when it started. Most certainly, I think there was a fear within the government that we can't let people know about this because there's going to be a panic if they know. And I think that they used intimidation tactics to scare everyone into silence at the time. And they were probably serious with some of the threats. They probably would have killed somebody if they tried to go public with it, or they would have tried to ruin their lives. That's what it sounds like when you listen to some of the stories from the people who were threatened. It sounds like they were serious. It sounds like these people were seriously being threatened, and it was definitely a breach of trust there for sure.
What's your favorite historic story?
I love the Lonnie Zamora story. I think that one was fascinating. There's just so many of them. The Betty and Barney Hill. Boy, that's a tough one. I never thought to nail down my favorite story. I have to say, Ariel School. I mean, how could that one be denied when you have bunch of little kids like that saying the same thing? I mean, and they still maintain that story over 30 years later. I mean, that's a great story. Wow, that's a tough one.
If you were to introduce somebody to this subject who has never been here before, yes, they may have heard of Roswell. Everybody's heard of Roswell. But what is the story that you would say, if you want to start your deep dive, this is the one you got to go with?
I think I'd probably tell them that the Ariel School incident. I mean, to me, you start there. I mean, how could anyone absorb that information and walk away thinking that means nothing? I mean, that has to mean something, right? When you have over 60 little kids that say they encountered alien creatures and a flying saucer, and some of the kids were communicated with telepathically by these creatures, by these beings, and they were given messages, warnings basically about technology, and then they were shown scenes of destruction in their minds. To me, that story would be very compelling, and especially you could actually show the videos that were filmed by researchers of the time interviewing the little kids, which is that right there. That to me, that's a wrap. I mean, when you have all these little kids telling these stories about what they experienced, I mean, that should inform you that obviously this happened. There's no way all these little kids could have conspired to contrive this kind of a story. So I think I would start there. And I think anybody who, studies that case will walk away realizing, wow, this is really something that happens sometimes, obviously, because all these kids, 60 of them, couldn't have lied like this, could they? And even the teachers, some of them didn't believe them at first. Over time, they came to believe them because they didn't have any other explanation, because there is no other explanation, because that's what happened. Obviously, that's what happened. They described the creatures, they described the craft, flying saucers, and then from there, you can go to other cases that are similar, like the 1966 Westall, Australia case, where a bunch of 200 students and faculty in Australia at a school there see a flying saucer land, and some reported creatures. I mean, there's just, that will lead you down a rabbit hole. Just all the school sightings. You wouldn't believe all the school sightings. Preston Dennett, who has a really good show, a really good podcast, he talked about school sightings on one or two of his shows before. There's so many of them. It's countless. It's unbelievable. I didn't realize how many sightings, how many encounters multiple people have had over the decades at schools. That's a rabbit hole for why are they showing up at schools on the top of it too? That's another question.
That is very impressive. Yeah, Preston Dennett did a great job on breaking that down with school incidents with aliens. My favorite would be the Stefan Mikulik case and Shag Harbor. Obviously, I'm a little biased because I'm Canadian, but I think we have a little bit of both. We have actual human evidence with the burning of his bodies. His clothing are still in the University of Manitoba for study. I think that Shag Harbor is totally underrated because it did involve the United States Navy. It did involve the Canadian Navy. And if we could ever get those divers to admit that they went down and saw the beings, that's what I want to see in Congress, my friend. That's the story right there.
Yeah,
it isn't buy my book or NASA needs money. Okay, it's literally that story right there. Those would be my two favorites. But it's interesting as we go down the historic road, whether it's Shag Harbor, whether it's Travis Walton, Betty and Barney Hill, the Marfa Lights, or whatever it may be. It's amazing how, fast forward to the internet age, how we've lost those historic cases. We know about them, but I don't think they're ever going to be blown up romantically like they have been in the past. What's your thoughts on that?
I would love to see a lot of these cases blown up romantically. Like you say, like, sometimes they'll make movies out of the cases, but very rarely. I mean, there was the movie about Travis Walton that they made, Fire in the Sky, but then they changed the story around because they want to, I don't know why, but they do it. They do this in Hollywood. They want to make it more dramatic, so they'll invent stuff. I mean, I don't like that. But there's so many great stories. I mean, I was just reading through this book here again today. I read it twice, the French UFO Wave of 1954 by Graham Rendell. I mean, there's so many cases just from that year alone in France, just from a couple of months, actually, a 4-month period in France in 1954, where so many people were seeing not only the craft, but beings. And there's so many stories. You could make a movie about what happened in France in 1954, and it would be extremely compelling. I think that would be something nice to see. I mean, I was just reading one earlier today where it was a case in September. I think it was September 30th, 1954, where there's 7 guys working at a quarry in France, and they're using heavy machinery, and all of a sudden, one of them noticed that there was some sort of a craft sitting nearby, and there was some kind of a short, weird-looking being with the helmet on, and they all saw it, and all of a sudden, the creature got into the craft. They couldn't even explain how that happened. Somehow it went into the craft. They didn't see a door opening up, and then the craft started lifting up, and it became engulfed in some sort of a cloud, and then it just disappeared. And they all saw it, and the foreman said, if there weren't other witnesses there, I would never have said anything about this. But then they all talked about it later. They didn't talk about it the rest of the day. They waited till at night, and then they started talking about it. And then the newspaper got word, and they were all interviewed, and they all seemed like they were being truthful about this. It was just an amazing story, but that was just one of so many stories like that were going on in France in 1954. And I would recommend that book if you haven't checked it out yourself. I don't know.
If you look at today's internet age, where people are more brave than ever to communicate about their own experiences, they're more brave than ever to share their photos, their potential evidence that they have, because let's remember, there is a big difference between evidence and proof. I just think that those days of having that power story are declining, and declining fast. I mean, you could look at today's people. Who would you look at? You might look at Eric Mitchell, or you may look at Chris Bledsoe and what has happened to them. But that story of like Travis Walton being taken, or Calvin Parker when him and his buddy are out fishing being taken, I know they're happening. I know they're out there, but we just don't have that next powerful alien abduction story, And I think if we went from the 90s onward, I would agree with you in saying that the Ariel School incident would be that next one. And I'm surprised there hasn't been a movie made about it. I know there's documentaries about it, some of them very good, some of them are very poor, but I just don't see that next movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there are documentaries about the Ariel School. In fact, there was one called Ariel Phenomenon that was released a few years back, and it was really well done, I thought. And but Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think actually Hollywood should be looking at this. This would be a gold mine to tell true stories like the ones we're talking about here. Some of these classic cases, the Pascagoula case, make a big budget Hollywood movie out of that, a real case involving alien contact, alien abduction. That's another thing too. It seems like alien abductions have, over as time went on, it seemed like it was more prevalent at one point and more so in the past than it is these days. I don't hear as many alien abduction stories these days. But there are some that people contact me with and talk to me about privately, and they're afraid to go public with it. But you don't really hear too much about it, and there's not that many people who are doing alien abduction research like there used to be, like Bud Hopkins. David Jacobs is in his 80s now and he's retired. John Mack, of course, and Bud Hopkins are both deceased. And there's not really many people doing that kind of research right now, which is a shame, I think, because I don't really know what's going on with alien abductions that much. I hear from privately from some people.
Hold that.
That's
thought.
it.
Hold that thought. Jim Quirk from the QUIRK Zone here on Spaced Out Radio. We're glad to have another hour with him coming up next.
This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
All right, Jimmy, we got about 6 minutes here. I'm going to put you in the green room. I'm just going to take a quick break. I'll be right back, okay?
Okay, me too. I'm going to turn my air conditioner off for a minute.
Yep, go for it. Be right back, everybody. All right, we got about a minute to go here. We'll bring Jim back. Jim, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Dave.
Yeah, this is a great show again tonight, bud. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. This is a lot of fun. Love talking about this subject.
Snack Entity, welcome to SOR Chat. Green-Eyed Lady, good to have you back. If you have any questions, please put them in capital letters. We'd appreciate it. Woo-poo, I did not. Big thank you tonight to T-Bone, Debaruni, Kira, Kitty, and Richard for the super chats. Greatly appreciate your love and support of SOR. And on our website, spacedoutradio.com, we do have our great store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so make sure you check it on out and see what we got. Alexander, how you doing? Here we go. Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Greatly appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to say hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Paydarky. Paydarky is the password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. From the QUIRK Zone on YouTube, we have Jim Quirk here hanging on out, talking some UFOs with us and the big stories that are going on, especially UFO history, being the 78th anniversary of the Kenneth Arnold incident. So, what kind of story do you think that we need in order to reopen this up? What would really blow this open? Would it be a mass abduction? Would it be a sighting over a city? What do you think? Do we need another Phoenix Lights, Jim?
Exactly. That's what we need. I think if another Phoenix Lights or Stephenville, Texas at this stage of the game would change everything because of the technology that everyone has right now. They have these cell phones. And like when the Stephenville, Texas incident happened in 2007, 2008, cell phones really weren't that good. The cameras on them really weren't that good yet. In fact, I had one that was like this. I just happened to have it here. One of these old ones, this you couldn't really film much with this, and it was less than the quality. The video quality was terrible. But if something like that were to happen today, forget about it, because everyone and their grandmother will have their cell phone out and they'll be filming it from all different vantage points, and that will definitely blow the lid off this, and the government would most certainly have to provide a response finally.
Well, I mean, will we see it be like another New Jersey drone incident? Do you see that that's the way it's going?
Well, the New Jersey drone incident, I mean, they did look like drones, and that's an issue to me. I mean, they could have been government drones and they just weren't telling us. They were lying to us. They could have been somebody testing something and the government knew about it. I mean, I don't know. Could it be NHI and they're just mimicking us? Possibly. I don't know. But see, that's not a Phoenix Lights kind of an incident. A Phoenix Lights kind of an incident. We're talking about a gigantic craft that would be impossible for the humankind to have created. And if something like that were to happen right now, especially if it happened in the daytime, if something like that were to happen in the daytime in a major city, it's over, and the government's going to have to make a response and tell the truth finally, at least admit to the reality that there's something here that we can't explain. They'd have to at least do that, and I think they would probably come clean at that moment if something like that happens again, and it might happen again. Those other incidents involving giant craft showing up like Stephenville and Phoenix Lights, if it's going to happen again eventually, I think. Then again, you have to think of this too. I wonder sometimes. I'm sure that this intelligence here understands our technology and where it stands and knows what we're capable of and what we're not capable of. So maybe they keep these things in mind when they make these kinds of demonstrations. They knew back in 1997 that, oh, we could do this and get away with it because the kind of camera equipment they have, they're not going to be able to capture this. Anything they capture is not going to look really good on TV, and it's not going to convince anybody. Maybe that's something that goes through the minds of these intelligent creatures. I don't know. It's all speculation, but if it happens again, it's over, I think.
You know, if you look at the Phoenix Lights, this is one of the most intriguing stories that I think has, happened in plain sight. And, the best way to hide things is in plain sight. Nobody has really ever sat down with former Governor Fife Symington and asked him the question, were you told to stand down after this incident? Because it took him, about 15 years to finally come out and say that he was an eyewitness to it. That's a long time, man, that he saw it and he doesn't know what it is. And it always made me wonder, did he get a phone call from the White House or the Secretary of Defense to say, make something up, make this into something to calm the jets of people? Because for years, look, we're what, 24 years after the Phoenix Lights here, 25 years. People are still upset about that. People are still feeling that they were played as fools by their own local government, their state government, and the federal government.
I think I think you've hit the nail on the head here, because I think he probably was contacted by someone and told not to say anything. And how do we know this? Because this has happened to other people. If you look at what happened in the Stephenville case in late 2007, just before all of the other people, there was a lot of other witnesses that saw this early 2008 in Stephenville, Texas. But in late 2007, December of 2007, Ricky Sorrells went out hunting, and he saw something right above him, right above the canopy of the trees when he was hunting. There was this gigantic craft. He couldn't even see where it ended. And then it took off on a 45-degree angle, and there was absolutely no sound. And apparently there was somebody from the military came to him and told him to keep his mouth shut. And he was threatened. They threatened him. He was threatened a couple of different times. He was intimidated into keeping quiet. And eventually he stopped talking. He doesn't talk anymore. He showed up on CNN a couple of times, and he provided comments to newspapers about it. But then he eventually stopped talking about it. Nobody's heard from him for a long time now. And so I think it got to him. And he did admit that, yes, there was somebody from the military that came here and told me to stop talking about this. And I think that most certainly would have happened with someone like Fife Symington. Why wouldn't they? They probably said, hey, maybe you better keep this quiet. We don't want anything getting out. That's what they probably said, something to that effect. And you've heard other civilians over the years who have been approached in some of the more classic kind of cases where they've been approached and told, hey, you don't want the world to find out about this. This is, this would cause a bunch of chaos. I think that was something that happened in the Varginha case in Brazil. That was something that was talked about in the James Fox documentary with I can't remember the name of the documentary off the top of my head, but it was about that case. And that was one of the messages that somebody from the military gave to a citizen. Hey, we can't let this out. And I think that's something that does happen. And I don't think Fife Symington would admit to that, though, if he was asked. Maybe he would, but I don't know.
I would just like to have somebody who knows how to answer or ask questions about this topic actually interview him. It's great that he wants to be interviewed, even every now and again by the mainstream media on this, but we only see what gets to the editing. We don't see what the raw footage is. And I would just love to have somebody try and get that quote from him. I think it's very important to the movement of this subject.
Yeah, it would be great to have a comment from him with regards to what happened directly after that incident occurred. Was he approached by someone within the government and told to keep quiet, or did he just take it upon himself to lampoon the incident? Because that's what he did. Remember, he had that press conference and he had somebody walk out on the stage dressed in an alien costume. He tried to make light of the whole thing, and a lot of people who saw that object were very upset with that. But did somebody tell him, hey, maybe you better just try to tamp this down and just act like it's nothing? Or did he just decide to do that on his own as governor, maybe I better do something to try to calm everyone down. I'd love to know the answer to that question.
Oh, me too, my friend. Me too. When you look at the United States, since the majority of our listeners are in the United States, Phoenix Lights, Roswell, Marfa, you name it, Kecksburg, there's so many. What is the most important case that needs to be answered in your point?
Well, my bucket list item, or a bucket item, or bucket list item would be the Roswell. I'd love to see all the stuff they have on Roswell. But there's some of the crash retrieval cases, like the Kingman, Arizona case from the early 1950s, 1953, allegedly. I think that something happened there. There was a lot of different reports about that. It was there's something that was discussed a lot in the book by Leonard Stringfield, his UFO crash retrievals, one of his reports. He talked about that in several of his reports. That was a really interesting story, the 1953 case. And there's a lot of different crash retrievals I would like to know more about. I'd like to see the pictures of the bodies, any film that was taken. I think the Roswell one would be the most interesting. I'd love to see. I'm sure that they have old film footage. There was a report, I can't remember where I read it, in one of the books I read about Roswell, where it was alleged that, there was someone from the United States military that had a film camera that was at the site that was filming stuff while they were there. They were trying to film a lot of different things. I'd love to see the autopsy reports, the pictures. I'd love to see all of that. And I'm sure it exists somewhere. I hope it hasn't been destroyed. But I'm sure somewhere that information is being kept, and I'd like to know all about it. I think everyone in this country would love to know everything there is to know about what really happened in Roswell, and enough of this balloon and dummy business.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. It's so dumbfounding that we still don't know. And it's even more dumbfounding that, in my opinion, there was 2 crashes that day, and we only ever hear of one. There was the one in San Augustine and the one at Roswell. And to me, that was just, I think that's a big part of the story that is left out. I think Roswell is important too, because that is where really ufology took off. Yes, Kenneth Arnold happened a couple weeks earlier, but Roswell, we all have this wanderlust about Roswell. It just seems like the mecca of ufology. I want to ask you another question here. Or go ahead, please comment.
Well, I just want to say, about Roswell, and the funny thing about the case is that it happened and then it went away almost in the same day, and everyone forgot about it almost by a week later. It was forgotten, and it wasn't until 31 years later that people start talking about it again, when Jesse Marcel Sr. Went public with what he remembers of the case. He thought it was very important, and he didn't like the idea that he was lied to, that he was told to shut up, and he finally, after all those years, went public with it, told Stanton Friedman everything, and then that was the beginning of that.
Fast forward to new ufology that we're in right now. 2004 Nimitz incident. It doesn't get the historic play that other incidents do, like Roswell or like Phoenix or other events like that. Are you surprised that it even though people know about it, they just don't put it in that historic type of category, even though it was 21 years ago?
Well, I think the difference between something like that story and Roswell, that Roswell has so much more to it. There's so many more things involved in it. The Nimitz story is, it's a classic military encounter with UFO stories. We heard a lot of those throughout the years. This is just one of so many others. I mean, you go back to the 1940s. There's so many cases. There's cases where somebody gets killed chasing after one. I mean, there's just so many stories of military encounters with UFOs. In the United States, as well as other parts of the world. In Iran, and for instance, there was in 1976, there was a very compelling incident. So that's the difference. I mean, the difference here is like, okay, the great thing about the Nimitz case is that you had people like David Fravor and some of his other colleagues, talking about this on 60 Minutes publicly. That's what makes it different. You actually have these very credible pilots that experienced this and saw these things with their own eyes, and there is some evidence to go along with it with the video. So it's yeah, I think it's a very compelling case, and it's but is it the reason I don't think it ascends to the height of a Roswell is because Roswell just has so much more. You're talking about alien bodies, you're talking about people getting threatened with death. And they're going to find their bones out in the desert if they say anything. I mean, there's just so much to it. I mean, just a few days in between the Kenneth Arnold case and the Roswell incident happening, there was a document that was one of the Majestic 12 documents. It was an allegedly notes that were taken by written down by Robert Oppenheimer and Albert Einstein. Apparently they were contacted. If this is true or not, we can't really say. I talked about this in one of the shows a long time ago. Where they were apparently asked by the government to explain what's going on with all these flying saucer sightings. So they hurriedly put some sort of a report together. And if you see this report, it's the Oppenheimer Einstein Majestic 12 document. Whether it's real or not, I don't know. It was leaked back in the 90s or the early 2000s, somewhere around there. I can't remember exactly, but it seemed like it could be a legitimate document. And it makes sense. I mean, you would think that at that time, the government would contact someone like who else are they going to talk to? I mean, all of a sudden flying saucers are showing up all over the place. I mean, who are you going to go to? Who are you going to ask? You're going to talk to Einstein. You're going to talk to Oppenheimer. They're like the most brilliant minds you have at the time. They're both in Princeton at that moment. So yeah, I just think that to me, the Roswell case is just so much more to it than something like the Nimitz incident. That's why with any case, actually, with a lot of cases, just don't stack up to that. And I feel like there is evidence that should be available to the public at this point in time.
I think that the Nimitz incident, over the years has been a little bit overplayed because they've only ever released the 3 videos. The Tic Tac, the Go Fast, and the Gimbal. I think if they were to release more video footage, they being the government or the Pentagon or whomever, I believe that might take off a little bit more than what we know. And that's what begs the question: Are we looking at technology that we may not know of that was being tested against our own fighters, or was it alien or something else? And I think that's going to continue with the great debate. And I think the people at the Pentagon love that debate happening. I mean, remember, Lou Elizondo et al. All said that there was a 23-minute video that they were trying to get out about the Nimitz incident. And that's died on the mountain with everything else. I mean, I would love to see that video.
Yeah, and Elizondo also made a statement to the effect that there is government videos out there that not only show these craft, but you could actually see occupants sitting inside the craft, and they're most certainly not human. That was something else that he said on a couple of different occasions. So I'm sure that they have this evidence that would show the world that, oh yeah, we know what's going on. I'd like to know what the reason is at this point, though. Like, why are they still keeping this secret? I just can't. I guess I keep saying it's the reverse engineering aspects. I guess they want to successfully reverse engineer these craft before anybody else does, so they have the edge. And I think that's probably the main reason. But there's probably other reasons too that concern them. The fact that they've been lying for all these years, for almost 80 years, basically, if not longer. I mean, for instance, the 1933 case, the Magenta case that we've been hearing about ever since Grush came on the scene. This craft that came down in Italy, and that was given to the United States in 1944 and brought back. Did they know about this stuff before 1947? I don't know. I mean, so it's at least 80 years, it seems to be, that they've been keeping the secret. And the fact that they've been keeping this a secret, I mean, that has to be seen problematic in their minds. Like, oh my God, people already distrust the government, and we're going to come out and tell them, yeah, we've been lying to you for 80 years about aliens. Sorry. I mean, that's going to be problematic, I think, in their minds. I think that's more distrust it's going to lead to. And that's why one of the other considerations has to be going on through their heads.
Outside of the famous cases, let's change subjects here with 4 minutes to go before the break. Outside of famous cases, what is your favorite alien abduction story that someone's told you?
Oh, I would have to say, um, there was I think just recently I was that someone personally told me,
Yeah.
or that personally. Well, uh, I don't know. It's hard to say. I've heard so many of them just off the top of my head. Oh gosh. I mean, I, I, I don't know. Some of them that the one I have in my head, it was just one I was just recently talking about. There was one from 1975 from Maine where there was a guy that was abducted. Didn't realize, I didn't understand what happened. Him and his buddy were out driving their car after work at 3 o'clock in the morning. They both worked late shifts, and they saw a flying saucer, and then they lost time, and there was a lot of weird things that happened. And then I just thought it was he encountered, he under hypnosis, he remembered seeing these mushroom shaped creatures. They mushroom head shaped. They had heads shaped like mushrooms, and it was very strange. And they did some examination of them, and then they let him go. And he punched one of them in the face, and they didn't react. I thought that was interesting. You don't usually hear that. Uh, and then what was really interesting was the Men in Black incident that happened some months after this incident. The guy that was interviewing, that put the guy under hypnosis, he was visited one night while he was home alone by some guy that acted like a robot. He was dressed like an undertaker, and then at one point he said he had to leave, and he started like walking out of the house like a robot. My powers were saying his powers running low, and it sounds absurd when you hear it, but all Men in Black stories sound absurd to me. And that to me was probably the craziest, Men in Black / alien abduction story I ever came across, that I ever heard of.
When you hear of people's experiences with ET contact, have you ever noticed any familiarities between the stories?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've read a lot of books on this, a lot of books about alien abduction, and a lot of the stories you see that there's always similarities between these with these cases. I mean, especially when you look at stuff that was going on in the 70s where there wasn't a lot of literature yet. So how did this person saying these creatures did this to me? They stuck a needle in me here, and then somebody else is saying the same thing, and they never met each other. They're telling the researchers that they're meeting with the same kinds of stories. So how does that happen if there's no book where they could have read about this before? So that's interesting, especially some of these earlier cases from the 60s and 70s that you read about. Like there's no way that these people could have been in contact. I mean, you're talking thousands of people, across the world telling basically the same kinds of stories. Being paralyzed. A lot of people say they can't move. That seems to be something that happens all the time. In fact, even that story I was talking about earlier, from 1954, when those guys in the quarry in France saw this craft and creature, the one guy actually tried to run over to his truck to grab his pen and pencil and paper so he could draw a picture quick, and he couldn't move. He realized he can't move. So while the craft was there, he was paralyzed. So that's something that seems to happen time and time again. You come across paralysis in these cases where the aliens do something to you, or there's some sort of a force hitting you, making it so that you cannot move. And I don't see, especially in a lot of the earlier cases, people saying that the same thing happened to me. Yeah, they had something in their hand, and next thing you know, I couldn't move. And a lot of the stuff wasn't being reported in the news at the time, but yet people would go to alien abduction researchers and tell the similar stories. Like, yeah, he had this kind of looked like a wand, and a light was on the end of it, and I couldn't move when he pointed it at me. And somebody else from some other state, on the other side of the country, says the same thing. How are they all saying this? Why are they all saying the same thing when there's nothing in the literature about these kind of objects?
Jim, we got you for another half hour on Spaced Out Radio from the QUIRK Zone. Jim Quirk, UFO and ET Talk. Next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Jimmy, I'm just going to run upstairs and grab an antacid because I'm getting some heartburn here, and I'm going to fill up my water. I'll be right back in 2 seconds, okay? I'm just going to put you back in the green room. Be right back, everybody. Sorry about that, Jimmy.
That's okay.
Just getting tired of all of a sudden having the burning going on. Wasn't comfortable. You know how it goes.
I know how it goes.
All right, there we go. Okay, this is weird. Jimmy, check this out. So I just ran upstairs to grab a Tums from my bathroom.
Yeah.
I just come back to my notepad, and there is a Tums on my notepad. That was not, I swear to God, that was not there prior to this. You got to be shitting me right now.
I wonder how that happened.
Well, considering I'm the only one in my studio in my basement of my house, and you all saw me leave, wow. That is so weird. So freaking weird. I'm like shivering right now. Susan, how you doing? Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. That just absolutely just tripped me the fuck out. Pardon my language.
Well, they have the power of invisibility, these creatures. They can cloak themselves. Maybe they're hiding out in your studio and you don't even know it.
Well, I definitely have a ghost in here, but wow. Cody Eiler, how you doing? Like, dude, before we went on the air, I searched my entire area to see if I had any Tums left on here. That's why I went upstairs to fill up my water and get a Tums. Come back down. There's 2 Tums sitting on my notepad right in front of me.
And you did not bring any Tums down earlier today?
No, not at all.
Wow, that's poltergeist activity.
Tripping the hell out right now. Natasha, welcome to SOR chat. Thank you to Deborah Rooney ×2, T-Bone ×2, Kira, Kitty, and Richard for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love. We're going to get to audience questions next for Jimmy, and we'll be right back here. And well, I think we got like 10 seconds. We do.
That's not a lot of time.
No. 7 seconds, 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 1 second. Here we go. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio. We're talking UFOs, aliens, and so much more with Jim Quirk from the QUIRK Zone on YouTube. We love this guy around here, and I hope you're enjoying him too. We got him till the top of the hour, but first we want to remind everybody that if you have missed portions of this show or others, check out our archives. They are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Big Jimmy Quirk is here from the QUIRK Zone on YouTube. We're going to take some audience questions regarding UFOs and everything in between. Let's go over to Joe to kick things off in California. He is saying, everybody always talks about the alien in Vegas. What about that alien that invaded the mall in Miami, and there were like 3,000 police cars around that place?
Yeah, I think that there's something happened there, except the difference between that case and the Vegas case is that there's just not a lot of evidence like the Vegas case. I mean, in the Vegas case, we actually have evidence of the object falling from the sky from multiple different sources. And then we have the 1 minute and 41 second long video that was cell phone footage that was filmed by the family when 3 of the family members went in the backyard. In the Miami case, you have some videos and some of them are, there's some of them that were fake, but you have a lot of stories out there from people that seem credible. It's just that I don't know. I mean, something definitely happened there. I'd like to get more information about it. It's something that's still in the back of my mind. I'm trying to figure out a way to tackle that story. I don't know where to begin. I mean, you're talking about all these police officers. None of them that I'm aware of has stepped up to this point and said something happened and they're not allowed to talk about it. As far as I know, I haven't seen that happen. I don't know. I think there's something to that case. I just don't think that the video evidence is there. The amount of evidence is there, like in the Vegas case. That's where I'm at with that. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. I think there's something to that case. Most certainly something really weird about it, and it needs more investigation.
Derek is asking down in Florida, Jim, from your research, do you believe non-human intelligence have a more positive or negative intention towards humanity?
I think it's a mixed bag. I don't know. I think some could be good. I think some could be indifferent with some of them. Some of them could just just look at us and they don't, whatever happens. They don't really care. And then some of them, I don't know. I'm not sure. I just can't imagine that creatures from another world would develop technology and come all the way here to cause us harm deliberately. I mean, when you think about this, they abduct people. They try to make you forget about it. They know it's traumatic, so they at least they're doing that. They're being kind to us in that respect, anyway. But I just don't know. I really don't know. There's just so many questions when it comes to these creatures. I mean, they're very secretive. It seems like they are killing our animals sometimes as they're mutilating cattle. I mean, there's really no explanation for that other than NHI, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's been going on. We've known about this since at least 1967, and no one's ever been caught. A person hasn't been caught doing this. And obviously what's been going on is aliens. That's why nobody's been caught. I mean, that cow the next day is completely drained of blood and parts are removed surgically with laser precision, cauterized wounds. It's impossible. So to me, I think some of it's bad. I mean, if the fact that they're secretive makes me think it could be bad, right? I mean, because why are you being secretive? Well, maybe they don't want to cause a panic. Maybe that's the reason. But maybe it's because they're doing something they don't want us to know about. Like maybe they're trying to take us over from the inside out, but via a hybridization program, as suggested by people like David M. Jacobs in books like Walking Among Us. So I just really don't know the answer to that question. Maybe governments. People in the government know more about this. Maybe they know nothing about it. Maybe they're just as much in the dark as we are. And maybe that's one of the reasons they don't want to talk about this. It's just hard to say. I think sometimes they seem like they're not here to do anyone harm. But then other times it seems like they're scaring the hell out of people. And people don't like being abducted. You hear a lot of abduction stories where people are very upset about what's been happening to them and they don't like it. So it's just, I don't know. I really don't know.
Let's move on to another question. Let's go to T-Bone. Jim, why on your store does some of your swag say "Stop the Stupid"?
Because I'm. Well, I think I came up with that phrase during a show a long time ago. Stop the stupid. Basically, stop the stupid. But basically, people who are saying that debunkers who really have nothing to add except character assassination. To me, that's stupid. I mean, instead of trying to debunk something properly, the way they go about it is they don't provide any evidence really to back up anything that they say in a lot of cases. But then at the same time, they'll try to assassinate the character of the person who's trying to relay a certain kind of a story, and I think that's stupid. So that's one of the reasons why I say "Stop the Stupid" on the T-shirt.
I love it. That is so my humor, my man. Great job on that one. Okay, let's move on to another question here. Let's go over to Gray Owl. Would a Tic Tac smoke a classic saucer at a quarter-mile drag race?
Mr. Gray Owl. I think, you know what? That's a close call. I think it's a close call. I mean, both of them are pretty much operating with the same sort of technology. I don't know which one. I don't think aerodynamics really has anything to do with this. If they're creating their own basically gravitational field, I don't think that will have anything to do with it. It'll be a tie every time, you would think, no matter the size. But I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question either.
I don't know that either, because I'm starting to think that the Tic Tacs are ours, not theirs. That's my opinion.
Yeah, some people have been saying that. I'm not sure if I buy that. I mean, you hear that a lot. It could be. I agree that that's a possibility, but I don't think so. I don't think that they're going to. My issue with the Tic Tac flying around, in the Nimitz encounter, you're going to risk the lives of your fighter pilots, your jet fighter pilots, with testing something like that. I just can't imagine doing that without letting them know. I think you would use people who are part of the program to test those kinds of things, that they know what they're getting involved in, not people that don't know what they're getting involved in. But that doesn't make me right. So yeah, it could be ours. I don't know.
See, I'm still kind of confused on it. I mean, I want to believe that these are aliens, especially Kevin Day, because I really like Kevin Day, who is the radar operator on the Princeton, who called in the fighter pilots to check it on out. And I really believe his stories. I do. One of the things, though, that convinced me otherwise is I was talking to somebody formerly in Black Ops, okay, and he showed me a challenge coin. And one of the things he said to me that really stood out for me is he said, if you want to learn about Black Ops, watch Alice in Wonderland. That apparently is a big thing. I don't get why, but apparently Alice in Wonderland tells a story about Black Ops. So he showed me this challenge coin, and it was of the Mad Hatter. And this coin was something like 30 years old, almost 40 years old. And it was before the movie The Matrix. So the Mad Hatter in one hand is holding a red pill and the other hand is holding a blue pill. Behind the Mad Hatter is like a dark sky. And then over his left shoulder, there is a Tic Tac flying on by and exploding. And if you follow the meaning and try and decipher the meanings of coins and of patches of the military, they all tell a story. They really do. It's an amazing story. Some of them I haven't figured out. Some of them I have. But it made me think that the Tic Tacs may have come from a certain base in a certain state on the West Coast that has secret bases. And it really made me second guess everything about the Tic Tac.
Well, one other thing about that too, with the West Coast there, especially in the Catalina Islands area, I mean, there's been a lot of reports of UFOs throughout the years. So a lot of people think that there could be a base out in that area. In fact, that's something so many stories that Preston Dennett again talks about in that area. There was a show where he talked about just that area there, and there's just so many. I think there's possibly could be an alien base there, but I don't know. We can't say for sure. All of it's speculation. Here's what I can say for sure. There's no question. There's an NHI presence on this planet. Absolutely no doubt about it. There's something here. And some people in the government know about this, and they've been lying about it for a long time. That's all we could really say. Beyond that, it's just speculation. I mean, people get abducted, cattle get mutilated, these things show up, they disappear. They have the creatures themselves can make themselves invisible. There's so many stories like this. They actually have cloaking abilities. They could paralyze us. They could do so many different things that we just don't understand what they're doing, how they're doing it. But they are here. There is no doubt about it. But anything beyond that, to me, it's just speculation.
All right, let's get to another question from our audience here. Let's go to T-Bone here, who is asking, do you think aliens are malevolent or benevolent? You kind of answered a little bit of that one before, but do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, I think it seems in some cases they're nice. They seem like, oh, they're helping us out. They're being nice to us. They're trying to warn us of something. Maybe the Ariel school incident, maybe they're being benevolent in that incident, warning us about technology and the dangers that might lead to, and that could be benevolence. And then sometimes it seems like it's malevolence. I mean, abductions. I mean, sneaking into people's houses and taking them out into a craft. That's malevolent. I don't think that's not right. That's kidnapping. And if a human being did that to another human being, the person who did it's going to be going to jail for a long time. I don't think people like the idea of getting abducted by aliens. So that's malevolent. So I think it's a mixture. It's a mixed bag, like I said earlier.
All right, let's move on to another one here as we say hi to Necessary Dialogue. Any cases that ever make you fearful?
Yeah, my own case. I mean, I was scared for 10 years. After that happened when I was a kid, I thought it was the devil or the demon from hell. That's why I had no idea about aliens or that could be a real thing. All I knew about aliens in the 70s was the creatures in Star Wars and Close Encounters of the Third Kinds and all of those 1950s science fiction movies I used to watch all the time. I thought it was just the product of Hollywood. I never even it entered my mind when one night I wake up in the middle of the night and there's something in my room that has 3 digits on its hand and it's not human, whatever it is, right? And I thought it was a demon from hell. And somehow it's there. There was some sort of a sound, some sort of electronic sound ongoing during that whole incident. I started screaming for my brother. He wouldn't wake up. He was right across from me on the other side of the room. And I start screaming for my mom and dad. Nobody's coming to the rescue. I'm saying my prayers. And then somehow after 20 minutes of this, terrifying experience, I got conked out and I wake up the next day like nothing happened. But something did happen. There was something in the room. Nobody believes the story. You go through life thinking, boy, was I targeted by Satan for some reason? That's what I was thinking. I was terrified. And so 10 years goes by, and then I realized, after seeing shows on TV about alien abduction, oh, that's what it was. It took me a little time to come to that conclusion, but that's when I realized what it was. It had to be, because I knew it was real, and that's made me fearful. So it was my own case that made me the most scared. I don't want to ever experience something like that again. I know it was real, though, and I think people should know that this stuff happens.
Let's go to another one here. Let's go over to Parker, new listener in our chat room. Welcome, Parker. What about the tiny dragon UAPs surveilling the entire planet? What's your thoughts on those?
I don't think I know much about this. I think I just came across a story about mention of this recently, and I don't think I know too much about it. What is there? What's the story behind this?
I don't know. This one is kind of new to me too.
I heard something just recently. Yeah, I heard about it just recently, but I don't know. I saw something with dragons and I didn't read the story or something. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I need to do more research.
All right. T-Bone is asking, can you talk about your alien implant extraction source?
Oh, he's talking about, okay, there was a guy that contacted me like 2 years ago who claimed he was in the Air Force as a mechanic, and he said that when you're brought into the Air Force, they secretly x-ray you, and apparently they found an alien implant in him. And he told me that the Air Force actually has an alien implant removal program. He was sent to some military hospital or Navy hospital on the West Coast to have this thing removed. And the doctor didn't remove it because of his Hippocratic oath, and he left it in him. And the guy, I actually brought this up again just recently during one of my episodes, and I talked about this, that this guy contacted me. I know that he's definitely from the Air Force. He definitely showed me all of his, all the information before he had provided that. So I know that this guy's a real guy. He contacted me again after I mentioned it just recently, and he said he wants to have it removed. And I said, okay. And he said he'll let me be there. He's going to do it. He said he wants to prove it. But then I guess he got cold feet because I haven't heard from him for about 2 weeks or a week and a half, or that was the last time I heard from him. But maybe he'll contact me. He said he'll let me be there and film the extraction of the thing. And I haven't heard anything since. I'd love to see.
I hope that happens for you, Jim.
That would be nice. Yes, it would.
If that happens, you got to come back here and report on it.
Yes, I definitely will. I would love to have that happen. I mean, he seemed like he was all gung ho about this. I mean, he contacted me. Says he wants to do this, and then maybe he got cold feet, or maybe he's being watched by maybe I'm being watched by the government, and that makes him being watched by the government. Maybe they contacted him and told him, don't you dare do that. Who knows?
Well,
or that's just
that conversation. I like to put my NSA hat on and welcome in all the agents and agencies who are tuning us on in tonight. Do us a favor, give us a call sometime just to say hello. You don't need the phone number because you already got it. So just give us a little ring, and thank you, boys and girls, for your service. Appreciate it. I mean, hey, got to be friendly with them, right?
Yep. Hey, they got a job to do.
You got that right. Enjoy the show. Okay, let's go to another one. Let's go over to Super Crazy here, who is asking, when the heck are we getting UFO disclosure?
Well, actually, you're probably not going to get it from the government until something catastrophic happens. I think they're going to. I think what you're experiencing right now is UFO disclosure, just that it's being done in a very slow fashion. They're constantly talking about this in the Capitol in Washington. There's always articles all the time on it's being fed into the public consciousness on a daily basis, it seems, these days. And I believe this is a slow UFO disclosure, getting people used to the idea that we're talking about this all the time. And then at some point, eventually, they're going to finally cross that red line. I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon. I don't know. But in a way, I think UFO disclosure has already happened. There's enough evidence out there. When you put all the pieces together, it's real. We really don't need the government to tell you. They're just, believe me, they're lying about this. They've been lying about it, and they're going to continue to keep this a secret until I don't know when. It doesn't really matter. There's enough evidence out there right now that should inform all of us, everyone, that there's a presence here. What they're up to, where they come from, that's the questions we don't have answers to.
I would agree with you, and I fully believe that disclosure is an individual thing. We want the big boys to come out and say it at the White House, but in reality, the way the phenomena works, the more you delve deep and jump into the rabbit hole about the phenomena, disclosure happens to everybody differently. I mean, you could be out with your friends one night and all have a UFO experience, and every single one of you who saw the exact same object at the exact same time will remember it differently because you will see different things. I had an incident back last year or 2 years ago where I was with 6 other people. I saw a UFO on the ground. The 6 others didn't. They saw the aliens on the ground. I did not. We were side by side. How does that happen? There are way too many questions, and I think you're right, Jim, that disclosure is definitely an individual affirmation. That's what I believe it is. Let's move on to another question, because we got a few minutes here. Green-eyed lady is asking, what do you think about all the national park disappearances?
I mean, it could be that could be when we're talking about malevolent aliens. That could be involving malevolent aliens. I think that for all we know, people that disappear in parks like that, national parks, they could ended up as lunch for one of these creatures. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, we have cattle mutilations. There's been, some people don't like talking about too much, but there have been human mutilations too. That I think the reason people don't want to talk about it because it's scary. It's a scary topic. At the same time, there are some people that disappear under very mysterious circumstances in some of the national parks, never to be seen again. Not a trace of them ever. Could aliens be involved? Most certainly. Most certainly. Maybe Bigfoot in some cases. I don't know. But I think in some of these cases, it could be NHI activity, and who knows what they do with people once they do that. Maybe they're in a zoo somewhere right now on another planet, or maybe they're being used for experiments. Who knows what? Maybe they accidentally got killed during an abduction event. I don't know. But I think that some of those cases involve not all disappearances, but a percentage. I don't know what that percentage is. I think some of them do involve permanent alien abductions. I think that's a possibility.
Let's go to Parker. So are the Tic Tacs military or black ops, do you think?
I don't think my personal opinion is I don't think it's I think it's an alien technology. I don't think that we have Tic Tacs. I think that's I mean, I could be wrong. My personal opinion is that has nothing to do with people. I think it's alien technology.
Yeah, I will stand by that. I want it to be aliens, but I think it could be black op technology that comes out of a place like Area 51. That's what I think. Just my opinion.
Yeah, and I concede I might not be right either. I mean, it could be military or black ops I'm leaning more toward alien.
Let's go to Mr. Broski, first time in our chat room. Thank you for the question. Did you ever have similar experiences where it didn't look alien, same electronic feeling but different appearance?
I must be talking about the electronic humming sound that I heard. I only had I only heard the electronic humming sound on that one instance, whatever that was. I don't know. It was like a buzzing or a humming sound. Something sounded like electrical transformer was like right next to my head. I don't understand what was going on, but when you do the research, you find out that a lot of people hear this. In fact, in the aerial school incident, some of the kids heard this sound and it scared them. But I didn't have any similar experiences like it. That was the only time I ever encountered a creature that I know of. And if there were other times, maybe maybe they got better over. Maybe that was the first time, and after that, they figured out, oh, this is how this guy ticks. Now we can knock him out all the way. I don't know.
All right, see if we can sneak in one more here because we only got about a minute 30. Let's go to Super Crazy. How do you think people who don't handle or don't follow the UFO topic at all will handle disclosure?
I think some of them will still deny it. I think that I'm sure there'll be a significant percentage they're going to just say, I think that's crazy. I don't believe it, because they're afraid of looking silly, and they're going to think that that's going to be their first reaction at first. I think some people are going to be scared. I think there's going to be a small percentage of people that will be frightened. I think most people are going to be fascinated. I think they're going to want to dive head first into this, and they want to know everything that there is to know. They're going to be old books, new books, everything new, old documentaries, new documentaries. People are going to be just going crazy for all this stuff. I think most people are going to be totally fascinated and wanting to know more. That's what I think.
Jim, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you back on Spaced Out Radio. You're one of the good ones out there, and I think you have a middle-of-the-road level head on this subject, and thank you for doing what you do, man. Tell everybody where they could find your podcast, your YouTube channel, and more information about you.
Yes, my YouTube channel is called the QUIRK Zone, and on the QUIRK Zone, I have my podcast, which is Extraterrestrial Reality, and on Spotify, the same podcast, you will find it there at UFO Extraterrestrial Reality, and I do several shows every week. Usually 3, 4, or 5 episodes every week, and I hope you come and check out my channel.
I think they should too. I really do, because you're one of the good ones, Jim. Thank you so much for coming back on Spaced Out Radio. Coming up next, we have Swamp Dweller. Then the Cryptid Q&A. Robin Haynes will be here momentarily, so make sure you get your questions out if you're in our chat room. So we'll be right back.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Great job tonight, Jim. Thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you for having me on, Dave. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Anytime you want to trade positions, let me know.
Yeah, that may. Well, I'll take you up on that pretty soon. Maybe I'll send you a note.
You have a great night, buddy.
Yeah, you too, sir.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Great answers. Great show.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Take care, Jimmy. Jim Quirk, everybody. He's one of the good ones. He really is. I'll be right back. I am back. Robin is in the background. Hi, Robin.
Hey, sweetie.
How you doing?
I'm good. Glad to be back.
Oh, we're glad to have you here as well. Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I just had something really weird happen last half hour.
What?
I went upstairs because I was getting heartburn. I couldn't find my Tums on my desk. I hadn't touched them. I couldn't find them at all. And when I came back into my studio after grabbing a Tums from upstairs, there was my Tums sitting on top of my notepad.
Don't you love it when that stuff happens?
Oh, it drives me nuts. I love it. Hi, Yay. How you doing? Thank you to our super chatters, Necessary Dialogue, Deb ×2, T-Bone ×2, Kira, Kitty, and Richard. Thank you for the love. Here we go, everybody. Hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio is underway. Swamp Dweller coming up. Same as Robin Haynes from the Cryptid Q&A. My name is Dave Scott. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Paydarky. Paydarky is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. This isn't a scary story about myself, but from my mother. My mother has been working for a grocery store that is well known. It's called Save Mart. This is one of the times that I've been scared for my mother. Back sometime in 2019, my mother was taking some of the old boxes from the meat department out to the trash. This meant she needed to bring them right out back behind the store. So her being the hard-working and best employee at the store, she does as needed. But the only problem was that when she was going out to the dumpster, she sees this homeless man. Now, inherently homeless people aren't bad, and that's not what we're trying to push here. Usually, my mom would just tell them that they couldn't be there and they had to leave. But when she looked at this man, she noticed something blood-chilling. He was smiling, but not just a normal, "Hello, miss, how are you doing today" smile. It was the "watch me go crazy and hurt someone" type of smile. Right after noticing his creepy smile, she notices this shiny object in his hand. You guessed it, it was a knife. In my mother's words, she said, "Oh, hell no," and booked it back into the store. She didn't have enough time to close the big back door behind her because of how heavy it was, so she immediately ran to her coworker. His name is Tom, so she immediately ran to Tom and said, "Hey, some homeless guy's out there with a knife." Right as he finished saying this, guess who comes through the doorway with that same smile and knife in hand? You guessed it, the random homeless man. They both noticed him immediately, and Tom began grabbing this big butcher's knife off the table, and the homeless man can see that. He knows that his cheap blade is nothing, and books it out. But that isn't the end of my mom's new friend. Who else but our friend the homeless man charges into the store trying to stab some of the workers, and people luckily get the man and throw him to the ground. Luckily, he didn't hurt anyone that we knew of. He took off soon after. They did call the police, but since he was homeless and not in the store, they couldn't really do anything except watch the building to make sure he didn't come back. I love my mom. Man, I hope she doesn't have to go through anything like that again. And I know how bad our small city has gotten. It's all too possible that that guy could have been drugged out or something, and that might have been my last day with her. So every time I hug my mom, I make sure to squeeze her a little bit harder, because you never know when a random person will strike. Yes, this story may not sound true, but I promise you it is. I'm sorry that the grammar might not be amazing, but thank you for sharing it if you do. My city has a large homeless population, so this is probably a very normal thing for my mom, but she is okay. If you want to see what I mean, or if you live around Merced, California, you know what Save Mart I'm talking about, and you know our homeless population. But to all the workers out there, stay safe. And to everybody who's homeless and not doing crazy things, please be safe as well. I know it's a dangerous lifestyle.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, ring that bell, and you can listen to thousands of stories just like that, just for free. Let's go to Robin. Robin Haynes, always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. It's always good to be here.
So, this past Saturday's investigation at Flight 21, we didn't call you, but there was some strangeness.
I was waiting for the call. I was primed and waiting just in case.
We thought about it. So for people who haven't checked out on our YouTube channel what we call Secrets in the Forest, so when you go into our YouTube channel, just scroll on down until you find it. Episode 4 is going to be edited here right as we speak. Little Timmy James has been on that for a couple days now, trying to get it all put together so that way we could get it released to you. We went back and we had some interesting happenings. When we arrived there, there was absolute, I'm going to say, anger when we got there. And it was to the point where Tim and I, almost Robin, did not get out of the vehicle.
Yeah, there's one of the kids there. He was about 4 foot tall, completely black, shaggy. Yeah. But I don't think they were mad at you. There was something that went on before that.
What do you think it was?
Well, the kids, the one that they're showing me one child, but I get the feeling that there was more out there. There was another being that had shown up, and it wasn't a dog man, but there was something else. I don't know if it was a bear. I don't know what was there, but something came into play before you got there, and that's what they were all hot and bothered about.
Well, here's what happened. Tim and I got out of the vehicle. We started taking the path down towards the crash site. And Tim was filming. We got about halfway between our vehicle and the crash zone. And immediately I got really loud in my head and of the words, "Turn the camera off now."
The kids were there.
We went into the crash area, and it just did not feel comfortable there whatsoever. Absolutely. We ended up walking back. We didn't stay there long. We didn't feel that we were supposed to be there that night, so we left. We left the crash area section. We went back to the parking area, and we set up our camp, and we just kind of kept talking like, look, guys, you know who we are. We're sorry if anybody came in here earlier, because we could tell people were on ATVs were in there earlier.
Yeah, they were not happy.
And they made a mess of the trails, to be blunt. They really did. And so we ended up just kind of going around and just saying, look, guys, you know, that isn't us. We're here. We respect you. We're trying to just be nice here. You know us. We respect you guys. We respect the area. And eventually the tension, after about 15, 20 minutes, it wore down, and it was nice and calm there. And it was calm all night long. There were a couple of things, though, that will come out on the video that I wanted to talk to you about. We tried to recreate the photo of the Bigfoot face in the trees.
Okay.
We could not.
Because it wasn't
We
there.
Well, exactly. And we found the tree that it was possibly in, and it was not there. And it was in the photo it looks like it's up a big tree, but it wasn't. It wasn't. It was it climbed up a smaller tree and was just on there because we found the tree that it was on. And when we put it all together, and you'll see it in the video that's coming up on our YouTube channel, okay? It is something that we were baffled by it. Absolutely baffled. We did find what we think is a fresh print, not near that tree, but on the way to the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Because before we got there, there was a torrential rain, and there was fresh, everything looked fresh and dirty, which is a good sign for prints.
Right.
So we felt we found probably a 15, 16-inch print. And of course, me being the idiot amateur that I am, I left my tape measure in my vehicle. So I'm taking heat on myself for that. That's why tomorrow, when I have time, I'm cleaning out my entire Jeep, so that way I have everything that I need right there, and I'm not going to forget that again.
The tape measure, I don't know if you do this or not. It works for me. Rather than a regular tape measure, go like to Walmart or wherever the sewing department is and get the cloth one, because you can wad it up and put it in your pocket. And it's not heavy. There's no weight to it. It's the same measurements as the big, heavy, bulky ones. But like I keep one in the bottom of my purse. And I think they're like under $2. Second, they're chatting away. They're telling me that there was 4 people. Did you see any tire tracks? Because they're saying that there were quads in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
There were lots of tire tracks.
Okay. Well, they said there were 4 specific ones, and that they disrespected their area. They destroyed some of the trees through there, and they were very close to the crash site. But they had their kids there, and that was the big set-off. They said everything was coming in. They're talking about there was a bear out there at one point, and then the people came and that scared the bear off. But then these people were there, and they did try to scare these people to get them to leave, and they refused to leave. That's what they were angry about. They said, you're their friend. They were not angry that you were there. They were very angry because of what these others did. They would not leave.
Right.
And that was the problem.
We did hear something funny within the trees, probably 100 feet or more into the trees, and it sounded like something was being shaken. It had happened 3 times, and I'm hoping Tim got that on audio.
Yeah.
I don't know if he did or not, but I don't know what it was, but we could hear it in different locations. So something was moving within the trees around us.
They were there. They said that was not to scare you or frighten you. That was to just let you know that you were getting a little bit close to the kids and that they were there. Apparently, when these other people were there, they were shaking trees like crazy, trying to scare them off. They made noises. At one point, they're showing me a chocolate-covered one almost running behind one of the quads, almost like to scare it off. But they said they were with you. They just wanted you to know that they were there.
Works for me.
They didn't care you were there. They were angry and upset about the other ones that were there prior to.
It seemed like it. It seemed like it, and it felt that way from the time we turned from the main logging road onto the trail in. That's where it seemed to happen. So we also tried to debunk if you go to episode 2 of our program we had on our YouTube channel about the shadow being that came in and out of the trees.
Mm-hmm.
And we could not recreate that. We found the trees where it happened. You'll see it on video when it's up, but there's no way that was anything human.
No.
or even monster-like, because there were a bunch of fallen trees in that area where it came in and out. And Lord knows, going backwards the way it did as it backed back in, it would have tripped. It would have
Oh,
tripped.
yeah. I also want to point out something that you kind of skipped over, and I want to point it out. You, my wonderful friend, are getting mind speak more and more all the time. You heard it in your head. So kudos for you. That's not only is it phenomenal, but it's a sign of trust from them. So this is really good. So I just wanted to point that out and say congratulations, because that's amazing. You got the message, you got it clear, you got it accurate, and it helped calm them down as well, because they felt they could make that communication with you. They're talking with you through the collective consciousness. This is all really good things, which is probably why when you got to a certain point, everything settled down. So that's like phenomenal.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll keep trying to keep that message open. So let's get to the gifting sites.
Okay.
On your request, we brought the Canadian dollar coin, the loonie, back.
Mm-hmm.
We went over to the marbles, where the marbles were. The marbles hadn't moved. We looked around, nothing moved. I said, I forgot the loonie. Let's go back to the vehicle. So we backtracked the 50 paces to the vehicle, grabbed the loonie coin, went back up to where the marbles were, because we were debating to put it where the marbles are or put it at our other gifting site. And we looked down, and it wasn't there before, or maybe I missed it, but the quarter that disappeared 2 weeks ago
Was back. Yeah. This is all really good, okay? Because to begin with, they go back and forth. They barter. So now you've got exchanges going back and forth, which is really good. Don't take that in a negative way, okay? It's not that, like, they're going, here's your quarter, we don't want you anymore. That's not it at all. They're going back and forth with you. This is phenomenal. Like, you're getting really good interaction.
I am just surprised, because I swore somebody took it. Like, it just didn't have that feeling that it was something special when that quarter disappeared, because there was no trade item before, and previous we had been getting trade items.
Yeah, no, this is really good, and they will bring him back and forth. My daughter, years ago in Michigan, had a How to Train Your Dragon that she got at McDonald's. That's how long ago this was. And we had a bonfire, and we had concrete blocks that were sitting around the bonfire. She went up and she took this little tiny How to Train Your Dragon, which was probably 4 inches long. It was not big at all. She sat it on the concrete block, and she told him, she said, this can be for one of the kids. She went to bed. The next morning, it was gone. It was a year and a half later. We went outside. All the concrete blocks were taken, put in a small circle, and that dragon was sitting in the middle of the circle of the concrete blocks. Like, I don't know if they thought it was going to cage the dragon in or what it was, but they do bring things back. They did that when they stole all the tools out of our garage. They did the same thing. They had those things for, oh my gosh, almost 3 years, because I used to leave the garage door open for them to go in at night. And they would get into all kinds of stuff. And they went out there and they literally got in the Craftsman toolbox and took all kinds of wrenches and sockets and screwdriver. I mean, they were just all gone. And, my ex-husband kept telling me, the kids left them out. I'm like, no, nobody got in there. We had, like 10, 12 dogs. Nobody's going to get into anything. And they all showed up on my porch one day, all rusted, but they were all lined up on the railing of the porch, just out of nowhere. So they will bring things back and forth. It's part of the respect. It's part of the game. So this is really good, because you're kind of elevated yourself now to the next level.
We did take the quarter and the Canadian loonie, and we moved it to the new gifting site, which is probably another 50 paces from the one that's on the main trail. Nothing had moved from the previous week, which was the whistle, the piece of jade, and the piece of quartz. They were all still there. We have now put the 2 coins by those 3 items, and we're going to see. I mean, I know they know where they are. They just
It's going
haven't
to take a
taken them
while.
yet.
It's going to take a while because now something has changed. In their world, change means it's a trap. Also, I'm telling you, those, excuse me, you can get them on Amazon. Those whistle pops that we used to have when we were a kid, the suckers, only they're whistles. I bought some of those and gave it to some of the Sasquatch to see what they would do. It literally took them no time whatsoever to make those suckers whistle. And then they ate them afterwards. But I've gone through like 2 boxes of 30 count, and you can hear them whistling through the woods. But they're very cheap. They're on Amazon, but they used to be called whistle pops. They're just suckers. They're candy suckers.
How long do you think it will be before they get any sort of attractant to that new site?
I would say a couple, 2 or 3 weeks. It could be as many as 4. Give it time. Some of them will pick it up really quickly. Others, I've had them wait 4 and 5 weeks just because that change just totally freaks them out. You know, you have to remember that our people are so dangerous. We really are the worst of the worst. And there are people that will go out and put food and gifts out for them, and they get comfortable with it, then they move them. And the farther they move them, they end up trying to move them into a cage. And so they're so distrustful of us. Now, what is in your favor is they do trust you. They do like you. And you've had really consistent good interaction. You did the other night. Even though they didn't take anything, you had bushes shaking, you found a footprint, the quarter showed up, which I believe came after you walked away from the area. But so you've already got something established. So that's going to help you right there. But it does take a lot of time. It's a huge leap of faith for them to even take a gift, let alone move the gifting site. So
Yeah, I can understand that.
yeah.
But I'm hoping that they can learn that we moved it to get it out of the way. The marbles still haven't moved. I'm surprised by that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'd watch them. Another couple things you can do is, take apples, which apples look harmless. Granted, the other animals out in the woods can get them, but whatever. Put gifts like sporadically almost in a path there. You can try that, but generally it just works better. Just let it sit. It may take a while. Every group
All
is
right,
different. The
we
ones
have
in
1 minute to
Michigan.
go here, but I want to ask you one more question before we go to break here. Tim and I are debating whether or not we should add 2 more people to the cause.
I would wait. And the reason I say that, it's not that I'm sure these people are lovely. Again, you don't want to overwhelm them.
Yeah, and I know that we won't be doing it for the while, but it would just expand the research area a little bit more, and it would provide a lot more coverage, shall we say? But you're right. I mean, I don't want to overwhelm what's going on. Like, I wouldn't do it for the next couple of weeks. I don't even know who I would choose at this
Bring
point.
out one at a time, and this always helped me. When you go out there, and I know it's over dramatic, introduce them, and then you give that person a hug. When they see that you're hugging that person and no harm is coming to you, it resonates with them. And I've had to do that more times than you can even count. And if you're
Robin
going to bring
Haynes,
somebody else, it works.
we're going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. The Cryptid Q&A coming up next. Robin Haynes.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear.
Yeah, Dave, it really helps to go up and show that you're safe with that person. My
Yes.
ex-husband, first time he came out to my house, and you have to remember, I'm not a dater. Never have been, never will be. And so they weren't used to any man coming to my house. They wouldn't let him out of the car. Like they literally wouldn't let him out of the car. The whole woods turned into eye shine. He got there at night. He could not get out. He got out, took one look at all that, and heard the growls and got right back in the car. I had to literally go up there, have him get out and hug on him and tell them, it's okay. I'm safe. Okay. Nobody's hurting me. You're going to be safe too. He's not here to bother you. And that finally worked out. But yeah, they get real protective of the people that they do trust. And when they see that you're friendly with that person, they tend to be more inviting. They may still be hesitant, but they will tend to give them more of a chance. And if they find
That
any
makes
flaw
sense.
with that person, they will ghost them. You will not get any reaction from them for weeks. Once they approve of that person and they feel like their frequency is high enough and they can't find anything negative about them, then the interaction comes back.
That makes sense. That makes total sense.
Have you noticed
Yeah,
any
we haven't even
handprints on your? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
we haven't even chosen who we would bring up there or not.
Yeah.
You know,
Are they?
you have to have a special commitment to that place. Like it's
Hmm.
not something that you can just do as a one and done or a two and done.
Yeah. No. And you can't do that with them. They need consistency. They need high frequency. They need uh, pure heart, and it's got to be a good person because if not, you just lost everything. So, I mean, you can do it. You just got to do it the right way and do it, very calmly with them. Are you noticing
Hmm.
anything like handprints on the car?
We think we may have found a handprint in the dirt. It was just really inconclusive, though.
Hmm. I was just curious because they're pummeling my car. Like they're not hurting it at all. They're having a ball with it. It's like the
Yeah.
handprint mobile. And they said
No,
that they looked in the windows of yours. So I just wondered if you found any prints yet.
no, not yet. I am a little. I will be honest with you, though. I am a little timid with the fact that I have been one of the safety things that Tim and I do is we leave the keys in the ignition. And I am afraid that if one of them checks out the vehicle, they may take the keys when we
Oh, they
wander
will.
off.
Yeah, and also be very well aware that even if it's locked, all they have to do is push enough frequency because they can use telekinesis. They can unlock that door in a heartbeat. They used to unlock my Ford Explorer all the time and set the frickin' alarm off, thinking they were funny. And they did that to one of our trucks and got in there and got all kinds of stuff out of the console. We found it later in the woods with them.
Hmm.
So yeah, um, maybe like take it and put it somewhere under the vehicle where you can get to it easily or something where they aren't going to. But yeah, they'll play with it. We had the house next to us. I had 10 acres, and the house next to us had construction going on, and they had a bulldozer over there, and they would leave the keys to the bulldozer in it every morning. 5 a.m., 4:30, 5 o'clock, that bulldozer would go off, and I would go over there, and there would be muddy footprints all over, muddy handprints all over, and they were enormous. And you can tell dermal ridges, the difference between our people and theirs, because theirs go horizontal, ours swirl.
Yeah,
And it was definitely their hands, and they had no problem getting that key turned.
right. Well, yeah, maybe I'll start doing that then because it is a little bit. We were gone for quite a bit. I'm just thinking, all of a sudden, I was thinking, damn, what if they, my window's wide open. What if they just reach in and take the keys? Because I do have a mini Sasquatch on my keychain, right?
Yeah.
So hold on right there, Robin. Big thank you tonight to Deborah Rooney times two, Necessary Dialogue. Kitty, T-Bone ×2, Richard, and Kira for the great super chats. If you have questions for Robin, put them in capital letters. I will get to them here coming up momentarily. All monster talk, people. That's it, monster talk. Here we go in about 7 seconds. So remember, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store as well. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out. We'd love for you to take a picture of wearing our gear. So go get it. Here we go with the the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us. What a great night of radio from UFOs to monsters. Robin Haynes here momentarily. But first, we want to remind all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. She's Robin Haynes. I'm Dave Scott. This is the Cryptid Q&A. We're going to start off with questions right now. We're going to start off with Joe tonight, who is asking Robin, are Dave's cryptids just honed in on Dave and Tim, and they get upset when Tim's wife Lorelei comes by?
No, absolutely not. They actually like her. They don't have a problem with her at all. They just look at it, that's his mate. She's automatically accepted. They are really confident in Dave and Tim. They really seem to be very comfortable with them. I think when new people come out, they kind of like look to them to see what kind of reaction they're going to have with them. Just like I was telling Dave earlier, the way you are with whoever you bring out with you is partially responsible for the reaction they get. As long as they're not picking up bad off of them. And I've been very lucky. I talked to Dave's wife on the phone, I think, once or twice, and she is just an absolute doll. So's his son. So I don't think he's going to have any problems at all. Also, Joe, yours were talking to me today, by the way, out of nowhere. They seem very happy there.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. I feel comfortable there. I feel like I'm getting more comfortable and brave.
Yeah.
Now.
They're very
really
comfortable there. They really do. They very much like you and Tim. They do. And I think that they're really, to me anyway, they're showing it more and more. And now you're getting more of the mind speak, so they're working through the consciousness again. So it's all really positive. And they do like your wife. They've never had a problem with your wife. And your son, they liked your son when he was out there. I think, they can, to begin with, they can feel what you feel for that other person you bring out. Okay? They can read anything. And so they're going to feel the connection between you and your spouse. And they just look at it as your mate. I actually had someone that I worked with years ago that when he would leave, one of the Sasquatch in the clan that he would go visit, they would send one to his house. And we actually have pictures of them in shadow form outside his house. And I asked them, I said, why do you do that? And they said, because we watch his mate while he's gone. That is standard in the clan. So like if a male leaves, the rest of the clan will watch over the mate and any of the children of the one that leaves. And so they do carry that on over to us quite frequently, more so than people realize.
Love it. Love it. Let's go to T-Bone. Do we have Robin's opinion of the face in the tree?
Yeah, I think I was actually the one that found him, or you, I don't know if you sent me a picture of it or not, but I blew it up.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and I knew you had sent it to me, but I don't know if you found the face first or I did, but I blew it up and took a look at it. It is absolutely 100%, in my opinion, for whatever that's worth, it is 100% a Sasquatch. Absolutely. It's one of my absolute favorite pictures of them in the trees. I mean, the detail in the face that I could see when I blew it up was just incredible.
Okay, so what makes it real to you? Because, not that I'm trying to be Mr. Skeptic or anything like that. I'm willing to believe, but what makes it look real to you?
First off, like everybody knows, I read energy signatures. So if it was just a cardboard cutout, which it's not, there would be no energy signature in it. So the energy not only came back excessively strong, it came back Sasquatch. So then you look at it. You look at the muscles in the face. You look at where those muscles are at. I've seen so many people that have literally tried to fake a picture and the muscles in the face are not in the correct space. So you look at that. You look at the eyes. You look at the way it's formed, and they all look different. There's no two the same. Okay, but you can see the hair is not perfect. It's going every different which way. Just there's nothing that I saw, not one thing in that photo did I see that did not tell me that it was real. On top of the fact they'd already told me they were in the trees prior to you going out there. So I expected it. I was glad you were able to get a photo.
I like that photo too.
I love it.
More and more believing. Let's go to
Yeah,
Seymour.
It's one of the best I've seen.
Do or can Bigfoot think abstractly? Do they create art in a conceptual way?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of their stick structures, while yes, they are a form of communication, a lot of them they do are art. Okay. I've had clans that I'll say to them, meanings of the structures. They'll tell me various things like we communicate through them, which I had known. But then I have others that will say, yeah, we do use them for communication, but sometimes we get bored and we just make them because they look good. So it just depends on who you're talking to. But they do. It is a form of art. They do the same thing with rocks. If you find a lot of big boulders and see certain scratches on them, if you really look at them intricately, you will actually see photos. And I have seen where they have written on and done artwork on trees. They drew me a bear. They drew me a picture of them with little aliens around it. I had them draw a Thunderbird. So they actually can, but the stick structures, while yes, they are a communication tool, they are also artwork.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right. What happens if you wander into an area and there are, I don't want to say structures because that's the wrong word, but do you remember in the movie Blair Witch Project where they had all of those stick figures hanging from the trees? What happens if you walk into an area where you see those?
You need to leave. I think part of the problem that we have with them is not everybody, because we have some really incredible people out there that go out and interact with them. We really do. But a lot of people, and I found this through the years, it drives me nuts, are so disrespectful to these structures. Okay? The kids make certain structures, and those are just artwork. But a lot of it is communication, and regardless if it's art or communication, it's theirs. Okay, your arches, they use energy to bend those. That's why they're not broken. That's why they can bend them on a tree that is not dead or even a dead tree and not have it falling apart. And people go in and they mess with them and they'll say, okay, let's see the reaction we get. We're going to move this branch or we're going to do it this way. And that way we're talking back to them. You're not talking back to them. Okay, get that out of your head. You're not. If you know how to make certain structures and you want to add something or you want to make one outside of their structure area for them, please do. Like a small X on the ground means welcome. I found that out the hard way. And so I will at times put X's on the ground. But don't mess with their work. They don't like it. They don't appreciate it. You're not endearing yourself to them. I did a conference one time and they had built, the people at the conference built structures in the back as an example for people to see what a Sasquatch structure would look like. And they would go out there every night and they would mess around with it and they would change it. Well, the Sasquatch started coming in and they were angry. They tore them down, and then they would put up their own structures, and people would go out there and mess with them. I can't tell you how many people I've been out in the woods with that I'm explaining structures to them, and they will reach over and pick up or move one of the branches. You know, if you are in certain areas, you're asking for trouble. They will make what they call woo bombs, okay? And they will put little tiny structures that you think aren't anything around their structures on the ground. And when you step on them, it's going to crack that branch. And it's an alarm system. And if you go up against the wrong one that are guarding those structures, if it's a structure of importance, it doesn't happen with all of them, you are in trouble. And I would not want to be in your shoes, because there are structures that have specific meaning that they don't want messed with. And it's just a sign of disrespect to them when you rearrange their things. Certainly go up and admire them and look at them. I encourage people, put your hand in the middle of it and even up towards the top of the highest part of it. In some of them, because they use energy to create them, you can feel the energy pulsate. I know people that have put light bulbs in there and it's turned the light bulbs on. The frequency was so high in it. But please, do not rearrange what they do. It's just disrespect, and you are not gaining any ground with them.
Yeah, I think that's a great statement right there. I really do, Robin. Let's go to a question from, I believe it's Tim Mothman or it's his goatee, one of the two. Is Bigfoot blurry just because he's phasing in and out of dimensions?
Sometimes yes, most of the time no. Most of the time it's because of the frequency that they are. They are multidimensional, so you are absolutely right. They can get blurry as they're phasing in and out of dimensions. But the other thing is, these are very high frequency beings. Any of your cryptids are. Okay? So they can look blurry if you are viewing them with a third dimensional eye. Okay? And by that I mean if your frequency isn't high enough, but it is high enough where you can see them, they can come off blurry. And that would be why. But a lot of it has to do with they are such a high frequency. Their body vibrates. They are solid energy and vibration, which is frequency. And so that does cause that blur. That's what our problem is with the cameras. The frequency is so high that it causes, our digital cameras were the worst thing that ever happened to us because they can manipulate them. Where, you know, the old ones and the Polaroids and that kind of thing, they couldn't do that. So that frequency and energy is so high, it causes that blur. But as they are also, again, you are 100% correct, as they are going in between dimensions and phasing in and out, you are definitely going to see that blurry.
Is that why we only see one footprint every so many feet?
Well, yeah, not only that, they levitate. I actually saw a female break a branch off a tree and walk. And as she was walking, she had that branch wiggling behind her so that it would take away the footprints. I mean, they are not stupid by any means, but they also levitate. So, you know, that's always kind of fun to see. So they'll be walking and they can either be going into another dimension, they can be going into shadow form. They could be stepping into a portal because they can create a portal. You have portals that are anchored and portals that they can create. They could be stepping into that. They could be opening up a rift that they could go into. So there's a lot of explanations as to why. And it's always funny to me when people are like, well, it's not real because there's only one footprint. You know, I've found like lengthy foot patterns that have gone on for 20, 30 feet. Many other people have as well, but it's not that common. So the ones that you find generally like that are not using as much of the cloaking and you can call it woo or paranormal, whatever you want to call it. So, I mean, but I have gotten some like that. I have pictures where I actually cast an entire trackway. So it was easier to see the footprint. And those guys there were just as much into using their abilities as anybody was. But yeah, they can be stepping into another dimension, absolutely.
All right, let's move on to another question here. Let's go over to Leacham, who is asking, given all the contact Dave's getting, that's me, How long till the beacon burns bright enough that the others emerge from the dark to say hello?
I actually think there's more that are out there with them than realized. If anybody's waiting for the whole group to stand out and wave, that's probably not ever going to happen. He might see them in a distance or whatever. But as he gets more in tune with them and he's working through the consciousness, he glows. Okay? As your frequency goes up, you glow. And that's on a paranormal spectrum. That doesn't mean you're going to see it. It's kind of like the Batman flare goes up in the sky and you see the bat symbol. You may not see it, but the cryptids can, because they are such a high frequency, they can see it. If a person is high in a frequency, you can see the glow on them. Okay, I can see where Dave glows because he's at that frequency level. To them, they can see it perfectly, and they can see it from miles away because it's just going to shine. So he's already getting more and more that are coming up. He has his regulars that he's interacting with, but don't ever take that as those are the only ones, because the stronger the contact is that he has, the more that are aware. And as we already know, just because you see one, don't ever take that to believe there's not a bunch around, because they're all linked through the collective consciousness, so they're not too far.
Let's move on. Let's go to Cowboys. Are structures sometimes territory markings or warnings to stay away from?
They can be, depending on the structure, depending on the group, and one that built it. Absolutely. We do know that the upright X's mean stay out. If you get the upright X's and then you have what looks like a pole on each side, not just the tree that they're using to prop it up with, but an actual pole, that's a territorial marker. And you don't want to go by those. Let them have their territory. That's just so that neighboring clans know. And in some cases, and I saw this in Michigan, if they have their children in a certain area, they will put those up because they don't want anybody back there.
I have to give a shout out before we go any further. We have a listener in our chat room tonight from Myanmar. We've never had a listener in our chat room from Myanmar. It just goes to show how global this show is. We have listeners from Australia, the UK in here, all over the world.
That's because you're awesome.
And Myanmar now. I'm just pumped up about that. Thank you very much for tuning us in.
Glad to be here.
I hope you come back again. We got 3.5 minutes, Robin, before we have to say goodnight to you.
Do you want to try another question?
Well, I'm just waiting for that to happen. But for you, looking at the entire aspect of what Bigfoot wants, what Dogman wants, what all of these cryptids want, is there one specific goal that they want?
Yeah, absolutely. They just want to live their lives. They don't want to be hunted any more than we do. They can't live in our world completely because they go by a different set of laws and our ways aren't theirs. But they do want to be able to raise their children. They don't want to be considered freaks. And most of them say, don't call me a monster. But I mean, we use it lovingly on this show, but they don't. They want to just be accepted for who they are. And the ones that want to be left alone just want to be left alone. And the ones that want to interact will. Chasing them down, hunting them down. They get enough of that from our government. They don't need it from us.
All right, let's go to a different question. Let's go to Seymour. Do Bigfoot have audible verbal language, and is that what people hear as samurai chatter?
Yes, and they actually do. They can speak our language as well as their own. They do have their own language, and they can also verbally speak any language that they so choose. So, yeah, I have some that I speak to audibly, and then I have others that I mind speak. So they absolutely can do both. The samurai chatter is something that they do interacting with each other. I feel like myself, and I could be completely wrong on this, but in some cases I've noticed that it seems to be more they do it back and forth to each other and to let them know we're around. Do I think there's other things that they would use it for? Yes. In the cases that I've heard them do it, even off my front porch. they're communicating back and forth.
Let's go to Ashley here. When they, the Bigfoot, transport through portals or dimensions, would it be possible for them to appear in non-forest locations?
Yes, yes, absolutely. They don't always stay in the forest. I've been in cities and I've had just as much interaction. Detroit, Michigan, they've had them in Detroit. They've seen them. There's not any place really that they don't go. People just assume they stay in the forest, and most of the time they do, but they don't always stay there. So, and when they go into portals, they can come out anywhere they so choose. It does not have to be in a forest.
Love it. Love it. Robin, we got just over a minute with you here, and I'm still waiting for a question from Mike. I guess I didn't see it in the chat room. But tell everybody where they could get a hold of you.
Oh, you can find me at Robin Haynes, Haynes, on Facebook, or you can find me on my website, which is www.paranormal-empowerment.com.
You are one of the best. You know that? You are one of the best.
I just love you guys. This is just such a warm and wonderful environment. If there was ever a place to talk about this stuff, this is the place.
Well, we love our woo around here, Robin. You know that.
And you're amazing.
Yeah, I think so. I think we do all right here. Any secrets that you want to let out for our investigation this Saturday coming up?
No, I just think you need to keep doing what you're doing, consistency, so that they know what to expect, especially since you're changing the location of the gifting site. Give that time. Mind speak to them, because even if you're not getting it, they are. Talk to them.
You can do that. Robin, it is always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you, my friend, for being here. We will talk to you next week. Robin Haynes, everybody, as we say goodnight to one of our good friends, and hello to another good friend, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X and hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
make a mistake. We're watching.
We own the night, Mr. Bumblefoot. We need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. All right, Robin. Thank you, my friend.
Anytime. Call me Saturday if you need me.
I will, my dear. You take care, okay?
Okay. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye. Robin Haynes, everybody. The amazing and talented Robin. All right, let's publish that. But before we do that, now we get to go to the old map here, grab a pin, and place that on my landmark. I love it. I love it when we get to mark it on the map, a new country. Yeah, a new country. I love it. Well, not a new country in general, but a new country for us to add to the map. It's fantastic. All right, what do we call it? All right. I haven't tested my words per minute in a long time. We had a lot of new listeners in the chat room tonight. What a great night. I love it when that happens. Hopefully some of them hit subscribe. Big thank you tonight to Debaruni with a hat trick, T-Bone ×2, Kira, Kitty Caddywhack, Richard, and Necessary Dialogue. Tomorrow night on the show, Jared Nelson and Anna Scott will be here to talk about Northland UFOs, UFO stories out of North Dakota and northern Minnesota. It's going to be fantastic. For the rest of you, have a great night. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. If you're new here, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and we will go from there. Talk to you soon, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.